What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Will and D. We got another great week of games to talk about, and I'm here with my buddy Jeffrey, and we're going to have some fun talking games together.
Oh, definitely. I cannot wait to get into it. There were a lot of games that did not go the way I was expecting, like almost every week in college football this season. But can't wait to preview the upcoming games, but definitely to recap as well some of the games from last week, including the North Carolina loss to Georgia Tech. That was tough.
All right. Well, here are the games from this past week. Obviously, Rich Rodriguez balling out with Jacksonville State, John's favorite coach.
Yeah, definitely Florida International, not that good. They barely beat Sam Houston, who's still winless, losing to UTEP. But Florida International, if you're struggling to beat Sam Houston, you're not great. And they got shellacked by Rich Rod's team. That was a really good performance by their team. 7-2. I mean, they probably not as good as the record would suggest. I know with a group of 5 team, it's hard anyway to determine how good they are. But in the losses that they've suffered, they didn't look that good, but they're still a lot better than I think some people were expecting. So great for him.
Yeah, I believe they still aren't able to make a bowl like James Madison, unfortunately, this year. So, I mean, at least they're doing well, and maybe once they get some better recruits in, they can challenge for
I wish that
Conference USA.
Jacksonville State and James Madison can make a bowl. It's insane that they can, especially James Madison. They're good.
In the Hokies are turning things around in Blacksburg. Looks like they may be able to make a bowl. If only they would have played Kyron Jones from the start, then they might be like 6-1, but or like 8-1. But still, like Hokies looking a lot better, and I'm happy because I have a lot of family that's attached to Tech, so I'm happy for them.
Yeah, definitely Kyron Jones is playing better football than Grant Wells ever did at Virginia Tech. He's playing more mistake-free football, and he's got the legs. Grant Wells could run, but Kyron Jones is a better runner, which makes the offense more dynamic. And Syracuse, at this point, they're awful. 4-4, they should be 0-8 because they're not a good football team. I mean, maybe that's a bit extreme.
Well, they are 0-4 in the ACC.
I know, and their non-conference wasn't that good. I know they beat Purdue. That was the win. That was decent. The only win that was decent, but still, I don't know. It's like he starts out okay, and then they just collapse. Dino Babers, I don't know how much more time he's got, and that's nothing to take away from Virginia Tech. That crowd was insane ever since they started the Enter Sandman tradition. I've always enjoyed watching that, and they were really fired up in this game. And like you said, they could make a bowl game, and they're 3-1 in the ACC, still in the ACC title hunt as well. They got a big game coming up, but definitely Virginia Tech looking better with Kyron Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it first started, I believe my family told me it was like 2003 against Miami, and they ended Miami's like 35-game regular season winning streak. So they're like, yeah, we'll keep it.
I like some of the music tradition. Like I like the I won't back down with Tom Petty with Florida. That's cool that they do it at the fourth quarter, beginning of that. And then you talk about the Interstate with Virginia Tech. I wish more teams had like stuff like this. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And then my Irish taking it to Pitt, 58-7, man.
Definitely.
This is Phil Parker level defense that the Irish have, man. Like our defense has been really good, and it's been great to watch. I just really want to end that New Year's 6 bowl streak. Hopefully we can do that this year. But overall, I mean, Sam Hartman had 2 early INTs, which I'm like, okay, Sam. But then he eventually got together. Didn't have a touchdown pass, but that's because we were able to run the ball so well against the Panthers. Rico Flores, of course. I mean, our receivers haven't been great, but Rico Flores, a freshman, he's been the best out of the group. So I'm hoping that he can keep developing next year and like maybe become like a solid wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Unfortunately, starting tight end Mitchell Evans did get hurt, but Holden Stace, the backup, they were like 1A and 1B to start the year. So it shouldn't be too much of a drop off. It does suck for Mitchell Evans that he's injured and unfortunately going to be out for the rest of the year. Hopefully he comes back stronger next year. But overall, Xavier Watts, once again, I believe he had two or three. I think he had 2 interceptions in this game. He's just been awesome as a starting safety. Christian Gray, one of the biggest recruits, got to play at the end of the game. And he got an interception, so I was really happy for Christian Gray. Just another great recruiting job by Mike Mickens, another great talent to the cornerback room. And yeah, I mean, everyone got to play today. It was just a great day to watch Notre Dame, and it was a lot of fun to watch it. Obviously not that fun if you're a neutral, but like for me, like I'm like, yeah, it's like I get to all these freshmen that I was excited about. They all got to play in their first Power 5 game.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. I was not expecting it to be this big of a blowout. I know Pitt is not a very good football team, but they did beat Louisville, had the one good game. But still, I would look at Notre Dame and just the Ohio State game, they should have won. Like everyone knows that, but they gave it away at the end. But then you talk about the Louisville game. The defense was gashed.
Defense eventually, I think the defense played well. The offense just couldn't do anything. And the defense got tired and fell apart. That's what happened.
They got tired in that game. They ran out of gas. Like you said, the offense was not helping them out. But in almost every other game, including the Ohio State game, Notre Dame's defense has been really, really good. And, I mean, how many times do you see a team score 58 points without their starting quarterback throwing a touchdown? I mean, when's the last time that's happened? 30 years ago? 40 years ago when everybody was running option and stuff? I don't know. That's been a long time since a team's put up 58 with no passing touchdowns. It shows you how good Notre Dame's ground game can be, especially when they're playing a poor team. And, yeah, this is what you want to do. When you're playing a team that, you know, an inferior opponent, you want to blow them out. You want to destroy them. That's what Notre Dame did. And I agree with you, Will. They need to win a New Year's Six bowl game. That's disasters that they haven't won since the 90s. That should never happen with a program like Notre Dame. But I think they have a good shot to get that done in the near future. They look really good this season. Unfortunately, they have 2 losses, but they're still really good.
Yeah, we have Manny seeing that Pitt might be the most disappointing team of the season. There are legit folks having Pitt as a dark horse to make.
I didn't see those people. If the people said that Pitt was a dark horse, I didn't see it.
Talk is Pitt, and what's the one other Pitt fan I follow on Twitter that followed me? Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. Oh, I can look him up, but I know they were both very high on Pitt going into the year. They're homers. They love their team.
I would have thought Pitt probably would have went 7-5 or maybe 8-4 like they normally do. That's like what Pat Narduzzi normally does. The Kenny Pickett year was kind of the exception. Kind of like how you had the Minnesota year with PJ Fleck where they went 11-2. Like coaches that normally go 7-5, 8-4 sometimes have a year where they do better. Depending on like you have a good receiver or two and a good quarterback and it works out and your defense.
John Waffle. That was the other guy that followed. John Waffle was the other Pitt fan. Sorry. I was trying to remember it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it was, unrealistic to think Pitt would have a good season. I don't know, like I said, about playoff, but I know what you mean. They have underperformed. And it's shocking to see a Pat Narduzzi-led team be, this bad. Because, again, they're usually, making bowls consistently.
Should Pat be worried about his job, you think, or do you think he still has some legs?
Well, I mean, he's been there for so long, and he's had so much success winning that I would doubt that. Now, the recent statements and things that have occurred probably don't help him out because you want to be able to bring players in. And with the way everything is these days, and people take things out of context and, and stuff like that, players are going to be upset that, everything like that. So will he be able to get players in? Because we're living in the portal era. You got to use the portal to win. Look at Clemson. We're going to get to Clemson, but they're not using the portal. That's why they're struggling to win. So with these statements, if Pitt struggles to bring in portal guys that can make their team better next season, they're not able to do that, then, yeah, Pitt might start losing a lot, and then he will probably end up being on the way out in a few seasons.
Yeah, we'll get to the Tigers, man. We'll get to that another CW classic. As the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, I believe that's the rivalry name. It was a party for Georgia fans, but I don't know how much fun Gator fans had. Maybe they were just angry and drunk instead of happy and drunk.
Yeah, I was hoping this game would be a bit closer. I didn't really know what to expect here, especially with the way Georgia in certain games has let the opponent hang around like South Carolina and Auburn, but they blew out Kentucky. And I would say that this win was as impressive as the Kentucky one on the scoreboard, but this was a very dominating performance for Georgia. Florida is not a horrible football team, and they have their moments. They've proven that they're not completely abysmal. They won a road game. They beat South Carolina on the road, even though South Carolina's not very good this year. But Georgia did what a lot of people expect Georgia to do. They won comfortably. They look, like a title contender. Georgia has not been perfect this year, but this is the type of performance that will make Georgia fans feel happier and, higher on their team than probably a 7-point win would have.
Oh, oh. Oh, thank you, LeBro Games. I appreciate you popping in for the like. It's really appreciated as always. And yeah, I mean, hey, if we want to come back next week, I'll be on Jeffrey's channel, Only Talk Sports, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. But
I
yeah, hopefully
appreciate you for
your
stopping
shift
by and
goes
dropping the
well.
like.
Yeah, and I appreciate the like. But overall, for Florida, like for Billy Napier, do you think they're doing a little better than you expected, a little worse, or
It's a
how
great
do you?
question. When we talked in the preseason, I think you said that you would be surprised. I actually remember that you had a comment on me and Locked On Gators interview for Florida a few months ago. You said you'd be surprised if they made a bowl. I said that I thought they would go 6-6 or 7-5.
It looks like
Brandon said
it looks
six and
like you're
six.
right.
It's kind of
Well, I
looking
didn't
like that.
expect South Carolina to be that bad. I thought they would lose the South Carolina game.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them. There's a lot of teams with coaches that a couple years ago, Dave Aranda, Shane Beamer, and then you look at Sam Pittman. Those guys, people were high on those guys a couple years ago, and now they're just going in the wrong direction. Their teams are struggling. So I wasn't expecting South Carolina to be, a lot worse. If you talk about Manny's comment about Pitt maybe the most disappointing team, South Carolina's up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one thought they'd be this bad. I mean, they lost a couple of transfer guys like Jaheim Bell, but they're really bad. A lot worse than a lot of people were expecting. But yeah, again, to your point with Florida, Billy Napier, I think he's doing what most people with realistic expectations were hoping or at least expecting. I mean, obviously, Florida fans that are expecting their team to win 19 games every year, they're always going to think that. So they exist. But Florida fans that are, rational or just paying attention to their team and realize, what, we got a lot of work still to do, or just neutral fans like us watching football. Like I said, 6-6, 7-5. They're on track probably to do that. So it's not like they've really underperformed. They've been about what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Graham Mertz has been a bit better, though. I think a bit better, because a lot of people were very low on him. He's been okay in some games, not horrible. So I don't know.
And looking at the Florida schedule, they have Arkansas at home. They should win that. And they'll at least be bowl eligible. Mm-hmm. But then at the end, it's a bit tricky. It's at LSU, at Mizzou, and then Florida State. So it could be 6-6, but
6-6, 7-5. I mean, we're right on the nose, because I think I remember when I said 6-6 and possibly 7-5. I think is what they could do. Yeah. So yeah, right on the button. Yeah, Missouri, they could win that game if Florida played a good game. But yeah, probably just the Arkansas win. The other three are very difficult.
Mm-hmm. We have the Buckeyes taking down the Badgers. Of course, Camp Randall is always a tough place to play, but I expected a little more out of the Buckeyes. Like, they didn't cover the spread this game.
Yeah, this was a relatively boring game in a sense that you knew Ohio State was going to win the entire time. Like, when I watched the majority of this game, you could just tell they were going to win. Like, there was never a point where I'm like, oh, can Ohio State lose? Because it wasn't the case. Like, even when it was 17-10 and Ohio State punted to Wisconsin a couple times, I'm like, Wisconsin's not going to go down the field and score. They just weren't showing anything on all. It kind of was basically a rinse and repeat of the Penn State game, basically. Wisconsin wasn't going to score. Neither did Penn State. And if you can't score on the Buckeyes, you're not going to beat them. You have to score. Like Michigan last 2 years has proven they can score on Ohio State. Whether that happens again this year, we'll find out. But it has not been the case with teams like Wisconsin and Penn State. They can't challenge the Buckeyes completely because they can't score on them. Their defense can hold them to 20 points, 24 points, but they can't score enough to win. So like I said, I always knew Ohio State was going to win. It wasn't a bad game, and it wasn't completely boring. I just always knew that Ohio State was going to win, even though it was a close game on the scoreboard until the very end. Wisconsin just didn't have the offense.
Yeah, what I expected a little better out of Kyle McCord, 2 picks.
Yeah, this was a bit of a regression game. Even Mark said it a bit when he was talking about Ohio State, and the way Kyle McCord's been playing all season in the offense. They kind of did not do as well. Granted, TreVeyon Henderson made it for it on the ground, but McCord, the way that he was poised against Notre Dame at the end of the game and how he was poised for the Penn State game for the most part. Like, this game was kind of just a little bit of a shock that he kind of regressed. Yes, Camp Randall's a tough place to play, but 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks is not going to be enough for Ohio State to win a national title. Not saying that everyone's expecting them to do that, but that is the expectation for the Buckeyes every year. That's what their fans want them to do. They have the talent to at least be in the conversation every single season. So McCord is going to have to reverse that trend and start improving again like he was for, the few weeks there in the middle of the season if Ohio State does want to be a title contender.
Appreciate Jason dropping in. Thanks for being here, my friend. And we have Florida State destroying Wake Forest. Wake Forest still probably going to make a bowl game, but a huge step back without Sam Hartman, A.T. Perry, and all those guys this season.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Wake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you talk about Sam Hartman, like how important he was to the team. Like you talk about Caleb Williams and Drake May, they're carrying UNC and USC. They're both. I mean, like if it wasn't for Drake May and Caleb Williams, we'll get to those teams, but that the records for both North Carolina and USC would be worse for sure. With Wake Forest, it basically was Sam Hartman and A.T. Perry and those guys. Like without them, you just see a team that is like all the other mid-tier to bad ACC teams that, a couple of them are going to make a bowl, but do they deserve it kind of teams. Like Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, all of these teams, a couple of them are going to make a bowl, but they're still bad teams. I know Georgia Tech just beat Carolina. I don't think Georgia Tech's completely abysmal, even though they lost to Bowling Green, but still, it's just these aren't great teams, but they're going to make bowl games because somebody has to. Somebody's going to have to beat and get enough wins to get to 6. But yeah, Wake's a lot worse. And like I said last week when we were talking about Wake, they're one of the biggest teams that misses their quarterback by far. I would argue Pitt misses Keaton Slovis too. You talk about Keaton Slovis, he's not lighting the world on fire or anything, but yeah, Pitt's quarterback play is a lot worse than it was last year. Not saying Keaton Slovis would magically fix that, but he's a guy that, a team misses. Like I said, Sam Hartman with Wake. And Florida State, I expect this game to be slightly closer because Florida State sometimes struggles to put away teams that aren't that great, like Boston College, but they took care of business, and it's giving more fans confidence that Florida State is going to be able to make the playoff if they can win out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely giving those Knowles fans something to cheer about. We have Washington and Stanford. Washington again scraping by.
I think the weirdest thing to me about this is that Washington struggled on offense against Arizona State. Penix had 2 picks. They never got into a flow on offense, and they beat the Sun Devils 15-7. Then you turn around this week, Penix balls out, 369, 4 touchdowns. Did have a pick, but played really well. Heisman-like numbers. They score 42 points. You expect them that they easily won. They give up 33 to Stanford. And I understand Colorado gave up a lot to Stanford and lost the game, but still, that's Colorado. Washington's defense is supposed to be better. Like, I thought the Cal game was a bit of a blip because, like, you know what? They were up big. Maybe they just laxed up in the 4th, gave them a couple garbage touchdowns, made the score look a little closer. But is Washington a good defensive team? I think that they are to an extent, but they're not consistent because in other games, they've been pretty good on defense. Like against Arizona State, if they had played on defense against Arizona State like they did against Stanford, they lose the Arizona State game. And then they're in big trouble for the playoff. Like, they're dropping in the polls. So, basically, Washington's very lucky that their defense played well against Arizona State and that their offense played well against Stanford because if the roles were reversed, they lose both of these games. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to have to play better against USC on both sides of the ball. Penix is going to have to ball out. Can't have an Arizona State-type game. And then the defense is going to have to play a lot better than they did in this game if they want to beat USC and Caleb Williams. So, Washington, I'm high on them. I really like their team. I think they could make the playoff. But it is a bit alarming that both sides of the ball have been bad in one of their last 2 games, whether it's been the defense against Stanford and the offense against Arizona State.
Yeah, just going to hope that both sidelines of scrimmage are just playing down the competition in these games. And that they can step it up when they face USC again and then Oregon if they make the title game.
Mm-hmm.
Jason said FSU has a high ceiling, but we know that they get sloppy enough focus at times. I just hope they play well against their toughest opponents and stay healthy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the problem. Like, Florida State was one of those teams, kind of like Texas even. They're talented. They have basically guys everywhere that could play on Sundays. They should be able to beat, teams that aren't that great. But then you're struggling against Boston College. If you're Texas, you're struggling against Houston. It doesn't make sense. These teams should be destroying those type of teams. Like when you're playing the big ones, if you're Florida State and you lose at Clemson, even though Clemson's not as good this year, it makes sense. But you can't struggle against poor teams. And that's what Florida State is capable of doing at times when they don't play like they're capable of. At least against Wake, they did. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
Mm-hmm. And we have a team that didn't play. This time they got them. This team got bit by playing down to competition. And it's Oklahoma against Kansas. And I'm going to say this. Jason Bean may have had costly interceptions, but the guy kept fighting, man. Like, I'm happy for Jason Bean and that he was able to – I could tell how much this win meant to him. And I don't know. I'm happy for him, man. I'm happy for Jason Bean. I'm happy for Kansas too, but Jason Bean was able to persevere through the turnovers and still get the win. Because, like, when you turn the ball over a bit, you just get down on yourself. But Jason Bean has that confidence to keep it going, and they end up pulling it out. Like, it's a good story to see a backup quarterback do something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that my two biggest takeaways from this game is, number one, I thought that Oklahoma had no shot to lose this game if Jason Bean was the QB. I thought if Jalen Daniels was the quarterback, if he was coming back off his injury and he balled out, Kansas I could have seen winning. I picked Oklahoma, though, because I thought that Bean was going to be the quarterback, and I really like Bean. He played good against Texas 2 years ago when Kansas was still bad, and they only won 2 games that year. But Texas wasn't great in that season either, but still, that was a big win. That was basically the start of this, for Kansas, the improvement, that Texas win 2 years ago. And like I said, I think Jason Bean's one of the best backup quarterbacks in the country when he's playing well. But I didn't think Oklahoma would lose because all I saw from Oklahoma was that their defense, like I thought North Carolina's defense was until the last couple of weeks. I thought Oklahoma and North Carolina's defenses were better. I don't think that's the case, obviously, for North Carolina, but maybe not Oklahoma either, because you gave up 38 to a team that their quarterback threw 2 picks and only 218 yards. He did have that big run on the ground, but that's your defense's fault. You can't allow a guy to run for like a 50-yard touchdown run or whatever, however long it was. It was a big run. I saw it on the replay on ESPN a lot. That's just bad on Oklahoma's part. They did not defend well enough in this game. If you want to be a playoff team, if you want to be able to win a playoff game when you get there, you got to be good on defense. We know what Dylan Gabriel can do. He's like all the other quarterbacks that can sling it. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Drake May. But it doesn't matter if your defense isn't there. So I'm happy for Kansas, like everybody else is. I am happy for Lance Leipold. I'm hoping the Jayhawks can keep him because once he's gone, Kansas could just tank again. I'm hoping that they're able to keep him. We'll see if he is going to stay at Kansas or if he does move on to another team. I'm happy for Jason Bean, and I'm happy for the Jayhawks. They're a legitimately solid football team. But I think this more speaks to how Oklahoma just dropped the ball here. Can't lose this game a week before Bedlam, and you lost. And now your chances of making the playoff are slim. Not done, but they're very slim. And it just shows that they're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the committee will still put Oklahoma in the playoff if they ended up beating Texas again, Big 12 championship game, but I don't know, man. They're going to be in there with Florida State, Michigan, the Big Ten winner. It'll be interesting to see if the Ohio State-Michigan loser, assuming that the Wolverines win, makes it over Oklahoma.
Yeah, we're starting to get to the playoff talk, and it's going to get weird because, like, what if it's a one-score game? What if it's like Michigan 38, Ohio State 35? And if it's between Oklahoma and Ohio State, even though Ohio State's not going to the Big Ten championship game, they're going to probably lean Ohio State just because, brand, and you lost to a team that's in the playoff. It's presumably undefeated as long as Michigan doesn't slip up against Penn State, by 3 points versus Oklahoma losing it. Even though they won the Big 12, it's a crazy scenario. Like, all that stuff, that's going to shake itself out. But to your point, Oklahoma's really damaged their chances. Like I said, they're not out of it, but if Oklahoma wanted to prove that they were among the elite, which is very few teams in college football, probably only 3 at this point can even get even close to saying elite. I don't even know if you can really say any team's elite. You talk about Michigan, but then all that stuff going on, I don't even know. I can't even talk about that stuff. That's just bizarre. Then you got Georgia. Hasn't looked as good, but they're still, I guess, elite. Bama's regressed, but they're still good. I mean, Ohio State, maybe, but they barely beat Notre Dame. Like I said, there's not many elite teams. And Oklahoma, like I said, this loss just proves that they're not one of those teams.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, Notre Dame at night is tough. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah. And again, I will reiterate for the millionth time that Notre Dame should have won the game. I still cannot believe they lost. I can't. The game just keeps replaying in my head. I'm like, how? How did they lose on the final play of the game? Insane.
But Texas took care of business against BYU. Keen Slovis had a tough game. I didn't really watch this one much.
Yeah, I don't think many people did outside of fans of both teams. Texas did what they should do. They're better than BYU.
Mm-hmm.
Keed Slovis is not a perfect quarterback, especially when he's playing better teams. He does struggle, but he's still solid. He's had moments this season. BYU's been the best team out of the American Conference, has joined the Big 12, the newcomers, and not, of the American Conference teams, Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, BYU's been better than them. So I think that they're having a decent season, but yeah, they're not on Texas's level.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone expected this game to be this much of a blowout, man. Like, I picked Oregon barely, but holy crap, man.
I thought it'd be a one-score game either way. I thought it would be like a 3-point game or a 7-point game, whoever won. I picked Utah. I took the upset because of Rice Eccles, because they haven't lost a home game with fans in 4 years. I know I've repeated it a lot last week, but that matters. Like, Utah has been impenetrable at home. Well, for whatever reason, they just could not lose. And to your point, I was this close to picking Oregon because, like you, I realized that Oregon was the more talented team. And I knew Cam Rising wasn't able to play. Like Manny just mentioned, it's a shame. It really stinks for the Utes because he would have elevated this team. But Oregon just dominated. They didn't let Rice Eccles affect them. They didn't let the altitude affect them. They didn't let Utah's nothing, like absolutely nothing. And Oregon's defense just shut out Utah's offense. They had no offense in this game. So, I mean, Bo Nix threw for 248, 2 touchdowns, and he was good. Like, we're done. We won. It's, bring in Ty Thompson. It was that easy for Oregon. And I would have never thought that. I mean, in hindsight, like I said, I picked Utah because of the home crowd. They never lose there, but I knew Oregon was more talented, but I would have never thought this. Definitely that's going to shake people's confidence in the Utes for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I noticed a lot more people are now thinking Oregon's better than Washington, which is interesting. Even though Oregon lost to Washington, Washington's been shaky lately. Oregon looking really good, so that's something to watch too.
Man, the Hoosiers oh man, I was like, come on Indiana. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, I didn't say anything, in the chat about the game. I was just watching it. I wasn't expecting anything. I was expecting Indiana to lose 38-10. If you remember when Buckeye Mike was picking Indiana to upset Penn State, I was like, is Indiana actually going to win? And Mike would have been right. I would have been blown away if that happened. And I was like, it was 24-all. And to Mark's point, because I talked to Mark about this game on Saturday night, and to his point, when Indiana got the turnover, it was 24-21, and they were in the red zone against Penn State, and they settled for 3. That right there partially is like, Indiana's not going to win this game. Like, you got to go for the touchdown. Like, if you don't get it and you still have to settle for 3, but they ran the football on 3 consecutive plays. This is what's going to make Tom Allen lose his job. He is too conservative. Tom Allen, your personality is amazing, and I've always enjoyed watching you coach at IU, but the conservative play calling is not helping you out. It is hurting you in these games. Indiana was in the game. Indiana had a chance to win the game, and you just didn't do it. And then they let Penn State score on an easy touchdown. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe Indiana can go down there tied, either tied or go for 2 if they get the touchdown. What in the world happened on that safety? The safety was one of the worst plays I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how it happened. It was broken from the start. Indiana loses. I can't be too upset, though, because I didn't expect this. I expected Indiana to get trounced by Penn State. I wasn't expecting to be close, so I'm happy they were competitive. And I'm happy Brendan Sorsby showed promise, had a good game for the most part. But, yeah, Indiana just gave it away at the end, really gave it away.
I don't understand. Like, I get it when Kirk Ferentz does it because I'm like, okay, he can rely on his great defense. if he's winning and play conservative. Tom Allen's defense isn't. I mean, it's not terrible, but
No, Indiana's defense is like 8th in the Big Ten. Like they're average. They are an average defense. And when you're playing an above average team in their place, your defense probably isn't going to be enough when it counts. So that's why you have to be able to play aggressive football, score the touchdown. I mean, think about it. If they score a touchdown, that would have put more pressure on Penn State. What if they made a mistake? Indiana could have won. Like, you got to put pressure on Penn State. Settling for 3 there, the way that they settled for 3 did not help Indiana in any way.
I'm sorry, Clint, that you had to sit through this as well.
Yeah, like I said, I was just happy that Indiana was competitive. I mean, it means nothing at the end of the day. It's still a loss, but it's better than what we've seen the last few weeks. And this question right here, I mean, the problem with that question is that Tom Allen's not the play caller.
Yeah.
He's a defensive coach. He has nothing to do with the play calls. He doesn't influence the play calls. Like, I understand I know I'm saying Tom Allen and the conservative play call, and he does talk to the offensive coordinator, but it's more, in my opinion, of who he's hired. Ever since Kalen DeBoer left Indiana as the offensive coordinator and went out to Fresno State, Tom Allen has hired coordinators that have been historically conservative. That is where I'm saying with Tom Allen and the conservative offense. It's basically like when you have, like a guy that is at the top, I guess you would say, of a company, and he's like the face of the company, but there's a lot of other people doing a lot of the, the smaller business deals and everything, like the stuff. It's like there's a lot more involved. Tom Allen's the head of it, yes. And he's the one that hired those coordinators. So that's why I'm saying him, but those offensive coordinators are still the ones making those play calls. So I would say Brian Ferentz is worse than Indiana's offensive coordinator right now. Now, if it was Walt Bell, the old offensive coordinator, versus Brian Ferentz, that's pretty tight. I would still say Brian Ferentz is worse, but I think Rod Carey's better than Brian Ferentz, because Rod Carey did have success at Northern Illinois as a head coach and as an offensive coordinator before that. He's not bad. I just think that he feels that this team isn't good enough to run the plays that they could run, and they need to get that out of their system. Indiana has the talent. You've got Lucas. You've got Camper. Sorsby is getting better week by week. Air it out. Show that you can play football. You got nothing to lose at this point except losing. So try to win. And Indiana, for most of the game, did until the end. Like I said, it's not all on Tom Allen. So I would say Brian Ferentz is worse because he actually is the coordinator. But Tom Allen is the one that hired the coordinators, and they've been too conservative. He is good. Andre Carter and Aaron Casey. I think both those guys could be in the NFL. They're both really good. But it's not enough.
The beef go down, man. I've been rooting for Oregon State all year. Unfortunately, their defense just isn't. I mean, they played all right, but it's not the best. But Noah Fafita is for real, man. Like, he is a great quarterback and one of the better ones in the Pac-12. And I thought it might have been, okay, maybe it's just because the USC defense is bad. No, this guy is a great quarterback. And he's going to be fun. I believe he's only a true freshman, so he's going to be fun to watch the next few years in the Big 12 after next year.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, though, because the calendar, can't believe it already is, but the calendar is turning into November for this next week in college football. Is Noah Fafita not Mr. October? Can he break the mold that Khalil Tate set? Because Khalil Tate was Mr. October. Once it flipped to November, it went down the tubes. Can Arizona finally have good quarterback play in the month of November? They have not had that in a long time. But it is October still, and Arizona got the win. You picked Arizona, and I picked Oregon State. And a lot of people told me that I should have picked Arizona. And the thing is, I don't feel bad for picking Oregon State. They could have won. They didn't play bad. It's just they didn't play good enough. I mean, they're the 11th ranked team in the country. And I know that it's harder for a team like Oregon State because they're not as talented as some of the other teams in their ballpark, like Penn State. I mean, who would you say played a worse game? This is debatable, but would you say Oregon State played worse or Penn State?
That's tough. I guess Penn State.
I would say Penn State. And granted, they're at home, but Penn State's more talented than Oregon State. So sometimes when you're more talented, you can get away with playing bad and still win. Alabama's done it all the time. You think that Arkansas game was terrible? They were horrible against Arkansas, but they won by 3 because of they closed it out and they had way more talent. Oregon State is not talented enough to play poor. And they didn't even play poorly, but they have to play well to win. Oregon State, if they had just a little more talent, would be undefeated right now. They lost by 3 at Washington State, and they lost by 3 at Arizona. And that's because they're a good football team that has to play a B game or better to win every game against a quality opponent. And when they play a C-plus game, they don't win. Penn State can play a C-plus game and win. Oregon State cannot. They're not talented enough. They have to play better. And that's why they're 6-2. They're just not talented enough on both sides of the ball. They have good players, but they don't have enough depth either. And that's why they're able to lose to teams like this.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the play calling of Jonathan Smith?
It was questionable. There was a lot of moments where I didn't understand what was happening because it's like, to me, if, again, you're on the road, you're playing a team that's got life, you have to show that you're the aggressor. Like, I'm not saying Lane Kiffin going for it on 4th down every single time works, but sometimes you got to take shots. I don't know. I think Oregon State just thought that they could play average and win, and it didn't work. There was a lot of things I didn't like seeing from what I saw with the Beavers, especially because of how solid they normally are. And that's why I backed them. I know the desert's a tough place to play, and Arizona's better this year, and Fafita's been amazing. But I thought Oregon State would get it done, and they just didn't play good enough.
Appreciate you being here, Todd. I'm sorry your Gamecocks aren't playing great, but I meant to keep that up. But appreciate you popping in.
It's unfortunate that they're struggling. They're really bad this year.
Mm-hmm. Ole Miss taking care of Vandy.
Yeah, Vanderbilt has regressed harder than almost any other team in college football. I know that no one's going to point that out and say that Vanderbilt's regressed harder than almost any other team because, yeah, there's other examples of teams that have regressed hard, and we've talked about them. But Vanderbilt deserves to be in that discussion. I mean, they beat Florida and Kentucky last year. And it's not like those two teams were that good last year, but that was progress for Vanderbilt. Now they just lost it all. And a lot of it, and a very underrated thing that no one is talking about, because no one talks about Vanderbilt, really, is that Mike Wright transferred to Mississippi State, their quarterback. That made the difference right there. Mike Wright left to take a backup role at Mississippi State, just like Spencer Sanders did at Oklahoma State, goes to Ole Miss to be a backup, which now at least Oklahoma State's figured out their quarterback and playing well. But Mike Wright, why did he leave Vanderbilt? He probably NIL, maybe Mississippi State, maybe, but he's not starting. Granted, he did start against Arkansas because I think Will Rogers might have been hurt. I'm not 100% sure. But he's been the backup for the most of the season. But Vanderbilt losing him just ruined everything because their backup quarterbacks, Ken Seals, and there's another guy too. They both played in the past, and they struggle. They don't have that running ability. Mike Wright kept Vandy in games. They made them competitive at times. And now it's all gone. And Clark Lee, he's going to have to work magic. He's going to have to find somebody in the portal that will want to play for Vanderbilt to try to get them back toward a bowl game because this is a terrible regression. It's not just that they're 2-7. They're not competitive anymore. They're just really bad again.
Fortunately, your Tar Heels. I'm sorry, man.
The thing that stinks is that if Carolina's defense was playing like this all year, kind of like USC's, then I would basically just accept it. Like, okay, you know what? North Carolina's defense is just poor. We've got a quarterback in Drake May that can help us be in any game, that we can basically win almost any game if we can basically just outscore the other team and hope we get one stop. But I legitimately thought that this year was different because I understand South Carolina's been bad, but North Carolina sacked them 9 times. What happened to that? Like, it doesn't matter how bad a team is. To sack them 9 times is impressive. Penn State didn't sack Indiana 9 times. Ohio State didn't sack Indiana 9 times. Like, it takes a great effort to sack a football team 9 times in a game. And that's what North Carolina did against South Carolina. And then they were really good against Minnesota. I think they sacked Athan Kaliakmanis like 5 times. And I was like, you know what? Outside of the App State game, first 3 games, this defense looks pretty good. What happened? You can't stop anything anymore. At least USC's defense has been bad all year. We knew from the jump it was poor. It was poor against San Jose State. It's been poor against Arizona State, Colorado. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're bad against every single team. But what happened to North Carolina's defense? It's regressed again. It was decent, and it's gotten a lot worse. And North Carolina's O-line has struggled a bit this season as well. Drake May is getting sacked more than he did last year. He's having a harder time, getting out of the pockets. That's a problem. And I think maybe Todd is mentioning the terrible O-line of South Carolina, if that's what he's referencing. I know that, but still, that was impressive in North Carolina. I'm just sad to see that their defense has regressed to the levels it was last year. And it's probably worse than it was last year now. I don't know why. I don't know how. There's not a lot of injuries on that side of the ball. But, yeah, if North Carolina had an average defense, just like I said with USC and some of these other teams, and North Carolina could have won the ACC possibly. But they're just not going to do it. And Drake May's going to be gone, and they're going to have a lot of questions next year.
Yeah. I don't know, man. All right, I'll talk about Georgia Tech for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with Georgia Tech, man? Like, they lose to Bowling Green, they lose to Boston College, but they beat Carolina and Miami. Like,
they did last year.
Lose the game, win a game. Lose the game, win a game. Lose the game, win a game. If this continues, they're going to beat Georgia. Like, are they actually going to beat Georgia? Like,
that's almost like the transitive property thing. Or also when you have like Northwestern, they were good in the even years, bad in the odd years. And now that's been debunked for the most part. So, I don't know, man. That would be crazy if the lose a game, win a game actually worked against Georgia. That would be nuts. But, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's inconsistency. I wouldn't say that, Brent Key can't get his team to play hard every game. I mean, you don't want to think that, but I mean, what happened against Bowling Green? I mean, North Carolina would have loved for Georgia Tech to play like they did against Bowling Green, because then the Tar Heels would have won, even with the bad D. But Georgia Tech played good. And it doesn't matter how bad your D is, you still have to be competent, to score. And Georgia Tech played a good game. They're running on the ground. They're getting it done through the air. I don't know why you lose to Bowling Green, but you can beat Miami, North Carolina. Doesn't make any sense. But, yeah, Jason says Georgia Tech beating Georgia would be incredible. Yeah, I agree. But I don't know. I mean, to your point, Georgia Tech's very interesting. For Brent Key's sake, I hope they get more consistent in the future, because then they'd actually maybe be good.
Yeah, maybe they can make a bowl. We'll see. It'll be interesting for sure. All right. I felt bad for Riley Leonard in this game, man. It's been a whole, gosh darn, not this again. But, yeah, I mean, good for Austin, man. Louisville looking good, man. Looking like they're going to go to the ACC title game as long as they don't screw it up.
Yeah, I thought the Utah-Oregon game was like my worst beat on picking a team to win, and I was wrong. But this one was pretty bad, too. I picked Duke. And I thought Riley Leonard would be back, which I was right. He's back, but he was not 100%. I don't think he was. I don't know about you, but he didn't look himself.
I don't think he was. But, I mean, this was such a big game for Duke. I kind of understand trying to.
Yeah, I think that they brought him in because they knew that the way Louisville's been playing, that they had no shot to win if they didn't play him. But unfortunately, they had no shot to win with him because he did not look like himself. He was, frankly, he looked like Phil Dracovic almost. I mean, it was ugly. It was really bad. And Riley Leonard, I don't think he's going to regress to that point. So I think he'll turn it around, but he's going to have to get healthy. And because, and a lot of people will say that I'm, I guess you would say making excuses for Duke, that I'm still not on the Louisville train. I think Louisville's a good team. I mean, I have to admit that based on the way they've been playing. Outside of the Pitt loss, Louisville's playing well. I just look to the fact that they did struggle against 3 marginal opponents, Indiana, NC State, Georgia Tech, early in the year. But Louisville beat Notre Dame, Notre Dame was exhausted. And they won this game, even though Riley Leonard was injured. I mean, I know it seems like every single game I'm just saying that Louisville won because of something, but I do think Louisville's good. I just don't think that they're as good as some people think that they are because of what they've done. And I think part of it's because of how the schedule is shaken out, how relatively tame the schedule is. Their schedule's not super difficult. It's like it's just hard enough for people to think they're legit, but it's not, easy enough. I guess basically Louisville is just their schedule is just basically where they can win. They can win these games because they have enough offensive talent. Their defense is just good enough. But if their schedule was in the SEC, they'd be 3-5. That's basically what I mean.
3-5, man.
I think that they would. If they're in the SEC West or the Big Ten East, I don't think that they'd be 7-1. I think they'd be 3-5 or 4-4. I do.
Ooh,
Do you agree with that?
I mean, I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, for example, like Louisville's running back, Jordan, on the ground.
I think they're about the same as A&M.
Well, yeah, and what are they? 4-4.
Yeah.
That's my point. That's absolutely my point. Jordan on the ground had 183 yards in this game. I mean, how many yards would he have against Alabama? I understand that's an extreme because Alabama's way better, but he would not get any yards on the ground. How many yards would he get on the ground against maybe even like LSU? I know LSU's been struggling.
LSU's defense stinks, so.
But like most years against LSU, probably not very many. I mean, it's just basically I think Louisville is a team that their record is going to make people at the end of the season, if they go like 10-2, think that they're a lot better than they are. And that's basically what I've been saying all year. I have to admit, and I am admitting, they're good. They're better than I thought they were, because I thought they'd be like 5-3 right now, and they've gotten by. They're 7-1. They're doing really well. I just think that they're going to be one of those teams that has a way better record, than
I mean,
a lot
do you
of
think
other
that they're
teams.
that much worse than Ole Miss?
I think Ole Miss is better by a solid amount. Not maybe a crazy amount, but because Ole Miss isn't the best example, because Ole Miss isn't like one of the most talented teams in the SEC. They have less talent than LSU, probably.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
I
but Ole Miss is still better. Yeah, Ole Miss is better. They have more depth. I mean, it's the SEC recruiting anyway. I mean, they have more depth than Louisville. I mean, if Jeff Brom's at Louisville for a few seasons and he can get more like talent in there, then maybe that will change. Todd says A&M's 5-3. Okay, A&M's 5-3. Sorry, I thought they were 4-4. But yeah, I don't know. Basically, for Louisville, I like the team. I just don't think they're as good as their record. That's basically all I can say. They're not as good as any other 7-1 team in football that's in the Power 5. I don't think. To Jason's point, because I know that basically a lot of what I'm saying is going to be taken wrong. And I'm not saying that anybody is taking it wrong, but to Jason's point regarding how good Louisville is, they're simply playing well right now, which is more important. But I think my biggest thing is I just struggle when people get overhyped on a certain team. Like Kentucky was that team a couple weeks ago. Before they lost to Georgia, everybody was high on Kentucky, and they've fallen off a cliff because they've played tougher opponents and they haven't been able to win. And Louisville, just the circumstances are helping them out. What if Riley Leonard was healthy? We don't know how the game would have went. What if Indiana actually had a competent offense? What if Indiana played the way they did against Penn State against Louisville? Maybe they win. Georgia Tech was a fumble away. NC State was a literal field goal away. I mean, like I said, you just do the correlate. What if Notre Dame had a bye before they played Louisville? You know, those circumstances change the way people perceive Louisville. If those things change, Louisville's 4-4 right now. If Haynes King does not fumble, if Indiana was a bit better offensively, if Notre Dame had a bye or an easy opponent before Louisville to prepare for them, if Riley Leonard was healthy, maybe they lose this game. They'd be 4-4. And no one would say they're good. And you know what? I would think the same way I do with Louisville as I do right now. I would tell Louisville fans, I think your team's solid. I do right now. I think the team's really solid. They're just not as good as what people think they are because of their 7-1.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Air Force still on their way to they're on track to go to a New Year's Six Bowl, so happy for them.
To Jay's point, I don't think Louisville's getting much higher. They're just taking care of business.
I mean, Austin's hyping them up.
Well, it's not just that. It's other people online. It is. But I get what you're saying. They're not getting hyped like Miami does in the preseason. I know what you mean, Jason. But I like Louisville. Proud of them. Just don't think that they're, possibly as good as some people think. Air Force, on the road getting an easy win. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I'm happy for Air Force because they're winning. I mean, when's the last time Air Force been as good? They're undefeated, but is Air Force better than Louisville's better than Air Force? Okay.
Well, we were saying the same thing about Tulane last year, and Tulane beat USC. So
well, USC's defense, though. I mean, I actually wanted to pick Tulane, but the USC guys would have lost it. I mean, that's why we all went USC, if you remember, tentatively. I think I picked Tulane to be within 7. I picked like 48-41. So I wasn't like thinking USC had in the bag. I know what you mean, though. If Tulane played Alabama in the Cotton Bowl, if that somehow was the matchup, destruction. Absolutely destruction, because Alabama destroyed K-State, and K-State's better than Tulane. So Tulane had the perfect opponent that they could
didn't Tulane beat K-State head-to-head?
Yeah, they did, but I'm just saying that Alabama blew out K-State, so Alabama would blow out Tulane. That's all I'm, I know. Yeah, they did beat, because it was on, I think wasn't on ESPN Plus. No one saw it because Jackson kept talking about it.
Jackson. Jackson would. That's very Jackson-y.
That's funny.
Man, Kentucky. I wanted them to win this game, but they didn't win. Okay.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's a decent team.
Good game by Devin Leary.
Kentucky's a decent team, but I'll never forget when they were undefeated, though, there were some people in Mark's chat that thought Kentucky might be better than Georgia. Seriously.
Well, Georgia wasn't playing.
Jason says Air Force is awesome. Come on. No, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying Air Force isn't an elite team. I'm getting flack here just for saying the Air Force and Louisville might not be as good as their record. That's all I'm saying. I love Air Force. Definitely not. That last sentence will never, ever have any relation to me at all. Ever. And I'm not going to read the next comment, Jason. That is absolutely not true. I love this country. That's not true at all. Air Force is a good team. I'm just being realistic.
If they play LSU, they could win because LSU's defense is that bad.
You talking about Air Force?
Yeah, I think
LSU held Army to zilch. It was 63-0.
Army's bad though.
Yeah, I know Army's bad, but people thought it would be close.
Well,
How am I anti-American, Todd? How am I anti-American? I'm just saying the Air Force is not good enough to beat the elite of college football while still respecting that they're undefeated. And I'm happy that they're undefeated. I like Air Force. Like if you watch some of my videos where I'm talking about, Air Force, I'm like every week just happy for Air Force. I'm happy for James Madison. One of our founding fathers, 4th president of the United States. I mean, I love America, and American history is elite stuff. Great stuff. So now I'm not anti-American. I'm just making a statement that Air Force and Louisville are not on the level of the elite. That's it. Like, literally, I don't know why this matters at all right now. All right. Tennessee's better than Kentucky.
All right, man. That's going to be a bit. I'm clipping this. I'm clipping this whole thing about how anti-American Jeffrey is. All right. Tulane. Freaking computer work. Thank you. Tulane barely avoids losing to food. They didn't. They got close though.
Yeah, JT Daniels is trying to make food relevant, and he would have if they won. No, I know, Jason. I know. I'm laughing. I'm having fun. I'm not taking any offense for nothing that you're saying. Now the next comment, definitely not reading. So So we've got Tulane barely winning. I would say this is a disappointing result in a way because I felt Tulane would win by like 10-14. Bryce is decent. I mean, they're 4-4, but they are decent because JT Daniels can put up yards. But yeah, Tulane is they're not as good as last year. They don't have Tajay Spears, but they're still a good team. And if Air Force slips up, maybe Tulane can make the Cotton Bowl. But if Air Force keeps playing well, they'll make the Cotton Bowl, and hopefully they get matched up with a team with a horrible defense. Maybe North Carolina can win out. I think it's Pac-12 though for the Cotton Bowl. Some team that's bad on defense. Maybe Washington if they slip up. Maybe
Washington.
There you go. I got the loophole for Air Force to win the Cotton Bowl. You play Washington.
All right, I'll read it for Todd. Jeffrey's dressing up as his hero, Kim Jong-il, for Halloween.
Why is this happening right now? I have no idea why this is happening. All because I said Louisville's not as good as the record would suggest, and then I said the same for Air Force. Like, we clearly know. We clearly know that's the case. They're not a top 10 team. They're not a top 15 team. If Air Force is undefeated and they're ranked 9th or 10th in the country, are they the 10th best team in the country? No, they're not.
You know, Jeffrey, people said the same thing about this in Boise State in 2006, but you know, they beat Adrian Peterson in his last game at Oklahoma.
I don't know. Boise was a weird instance, though, and they were good for a while. Jason says, "See, now you're talking what I'm talking now." He's saying Washington would just. I thought you were pro-American. You're pro-American, Jason. So you're supposed to be pro-Air Force. Go Falcons. Beat what are we doing here? Washington was. They need somebody. Maybe Louisville. So now you're saying Louisville's not that good. Like, you're literally going in circles right now. I have no idea. Like, are you like? I don't know. No, I have no idea. Well, then I'm more American than you, Jason, because go Air Force. Go Louisville, even though they're not as good as the record. But go both teams.
All right. This is a whole situation. All right. Come on, you freaking computer.
Yeah, we're never going to get to the previews.
Gosh. Oh, here we go. UCLA beating Colorado. The Dion party is over.
Yeah, Shedeur is no help. Absolutely no help. The O-line for Colorado, it's the most cliche phrase ever, but it's like Swiss cheese. There's so many holes everywhere. Shedeur Sanders has no time to throw, and then when he scrambles, he gets in trouble sometimes because he's trying to extend the play too long. I mean, props to him for trying as hard as he does. I mean, he gives fantastic effort game in and game out, but this is what we expected, though. I remember when me and Austin did the tier list for all the teams in college football at the preseason. He wanted to put Colorado in top 25, and I was like, Austin, I said I would put them in not make a bowl. I think he had me put them in make a bowl, but I said no bowl. I had them going 5-7. And this is what they're doing. They're a team with no depth. They have no depth at all. Their defense is abysmal. Their offense does not have help. Travis Hunter is the help. He's both sides of the ball. Him and Shedeur are basically the team. I don't like saying that because there are other players at other positions.
Shiloh is good.
Shiloh can play, but there's not a lot of help there. And they're not a great team. Until Dion can get more talent in, they're just not a good team. They're better than they were, but without Shedeur, they'd be 1-7 right now. And that's not crazy because they barely beat Arizona State on a field goal. They barely beat Colorado State in overtime. And they beat TCU by 3 on the road without Shedeur. They're 1-7. And if they play Nebraska now, they'd be 0-8.
Yeah.
Seriously, they'd be 0-8. If they had Nebraska now and they had those other 3 games, which without Shedeur, they'd be 0-8. They're not great.
Yep. And Cal, man, the Bears were so close. There's just one play away from knocking off SC in the last weekender, but SC did get away with it again.
I don't know why Cal went for 2. I mean, in a way, I get it because when there are like 50 seconds left,
yeah,
you know, and like if I guess that they feel like USC could go down the field, score again, probably if they tied it up. That's probably why.
Well, they didn't think, and they didn't think that they thought they had a better chance of doing that than winning and with a 2 than with overtime.
Yeah, I get it, but it's one of those things and me and Mark have talked about it before as well, but it's basically, it comes down to when you have a play where you get it, like a 2-point conversion or a 4th and 1. You get it. It's a great play call. Everybody's excited for the coach. Everybody's excited for the players that you went for it and you got it. You don't get it, though. Everybody criticizes. So since Cal didn't get it, of course, people were like, why do they go for it? So if they had got it, a great play. I get that argument. So it's kind of hard to say that it was the wrong move, but it just stinks that Cal didn't get it because they played a good game. even though we know why, because USC's defense is ranked like bottom 15 in the country, even though they have talent everywhere. They just aren't getting it done. All I can say is I feel bad for Caleb Williams. I've said this like the last 3 weeks. I feel really bad for Caleb Williams. And I know most people be like, well, I feel bad for him. He won the Heisman, and he's making a lot of NIL money. He's going to be the top pick in the draft or second pick, whatever, top pick, and he's going to make it's not about that. It's because he could have won a title at USC if their defense was top 50. Instead, they have no chance because the defense is horrible. It's the inverse of Iowa. Everyone says it, and it stinks. It just stinks that no matter what he does, they just can't win against the top opponents.
Yeah. I don't know if they win another game this year.
Yeah. Well, at least when I told Mike last week that he said that they're not going to win another game, and I said that they would, well, I was right. They won another game. Now I'm not confident anymore, but I was right. They won another game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Old Dominion James Madison game, I thought it would be close. I said it would probably be a close game because Old Dominion is decent. James Madison pulled it out, so good for them. But, yeah, they got another tough game up next. But, yeah, they've survived. But a win is a win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see your point about Army, too. They lost to UMass. I mean, I'm trying to give LSU a little credit. They shut out somebody, though.
Mm-hmm.
Boston College is probably the worst 5-3 team in college football. I'm sorry, BC. I don't believe you're good. You're gonna make a bowl probably unless you collapse, but because your schedule's easy. But this is insane. Look who they've beaten.
They're definitely gonna beat one of Syracuse or Pitt.
The only good win is Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's the only good win. Todd says skip South Carolina, please. We got to talk about it. What happened to Maryland, by the way? What's your take on Maryland's collapse?
I think they were all excited about the Ohio State game. They lost, and they're like kind of, I don't know, maybe not as motivated.
Yeah, but if you beat Illinois and you beat Northwestern, you're 7-1 right now.
Yeah.
And everybody be saying, fourth best team in the Big Ten, which for Maryland's a good, thing to have. It's a good thing to say because you look at the Big Three. We know Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan are the best teams. To be fourth is good. And Maryland just blew it against two teams that shouldn't have beat them. I mean, I know Indiana's bad, but Maryland blitzed Indiana. They looked really good earlier in the year. The way Maryland's playing right now, Indiana maybe could beat them. I mean, they're playing horrible right now. I don't understand. It's just sad that they're going to throw away the chance to be fourth best team in the Big Ten. And they better win another game if they want to make a bowl. You don't want to go 5-7 and just completely ruin it. I don't think it's going to happen, but shouldn't have lost these two games.
Mm-hmm. And then South Carolina, man, so sad.
Yeah, to Jason's point right here, he says James Madison example the right way to move to the FBS. UMass example of how not to make the move. Well, yeah, because James Madison was one of the best FCS teams. They were always, in the playoffs or whatever for the FCS. They never usually won because North Dakota State always won. Like North Dakota State would be another team that can make the jump. Like if they went to a small conference and like the American maybe or the Mountain West, they probably win. They wouldn't win the conference all the time, but they would win games. So definitely, James Madison went to the right conference, and they're a good team. But, yeah, UMass is bad, so definitely. But, yeah, A&M, they're not bad, but they're not as good as they were with Wegman. Max Johnson, the offense isn't as good, but South Carolina is just playing so poorly. Sorry, Todd, that A&M they won. And they might make a bowl, but they're still underperforming.
How did Houston beat West Virginia? I don't
This right here is the definition of why college football is fickle. You don't know what they're going to – if you recall, TCU went out there and lost to BYU. I think that's what happened. And then the next week, TCU went out there and they blew out a team. Or it might have been vice versa. I can't remember. But that's what happens, though. Basically, a one-week team plays poor, next week team plays good. And Houston, they look better last 2 weeks. You beat West Virginia on that crazy ending, and then Texas game, you were competitive, and then this happens. And Kansas State hasn't really impressed that many people this year, but finally they blew out a team, and Dana Holgerson's hot seat's heating up again.
Mm-hmm. And then West Virginia needed this one. They needed this one in Morgantown. Neil Brown did. And the seat definitely cooled off a bit.
Yeah, and West Virginia could be 7-1, just like Maryland. Maryland definitely should be 7-1, but West Virginia has they had a shot to be 7-1. A lot of people thought they would be the way that they were playing, but yeah, 5-3 is still not bad. If they go 7-5, which they could, then it probably does save Neil Brown's job for this season. But yeah, they could have been better than this though if they hadn't slipped up.
And Clemson, man, like another classic on the CW.
Yeah, you don't want to be a favorite on the CW. Basically, if you're on the CW, pick the underdog because the favorites keep losing. Louisville did, Carolina did, Clemson. Clemson, I don't know. I think part of it is that K. Klubnik is struggling compared to past QBs.
The offensive line's not helping him out at all.
But the offensive line, to your point, not as talented as it used to be, and there's not enough depth. They don't have the depth. If you remember, like 4 years ago, Clemson's D-line had so many players that they could just interchange in and out. It was insane. Like, they had so much depth, and that's not the case anymore because of the fact that they don't use the portal. And with the way everyone else is using the portal, every other team has more depth than Clemson does because they're only recruiting through high school. And I understand Dabo's values. I get it. I respect it. But Clemson's not good anymore. And if he wants to turn Clemson around, he's going to have to use the portal because I don't think he's going to be able to dig a hole out of this one just using, one element of recruiting when everyone else is using two elements. They're not going to get where they want to be anymore, where they should be. It stinks, but yeah, Clemson, it would be so Clemson, though, to win the next game. It just would. But Clemson is way worse than they used to be, and they're not looking like a team is capable of really beating anybody right now.
Mm-hmm. And then Auburn getting their first SEC win with Hugh Freeze.
I can say that this just makes Arkansas look worse because Mississippi State beat Arkansas 7-3. And then Auburn, I know it's in Jordan-Hare, but Mississippi State's not very good. And Peyton Thorne threw for 230 and 3 touchdowns, which for Auburn this season is a lot of yards. They have not been a good passing team. So Auburn, not great, but there is positive signs with Hugh Freeze's team.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there's no positive signs for Michigan State right now, as I believe they are the worst Power 5 team.
Yeah, definitely is possible. I mean, it would be bad for Indiana to lose to them. Yeah, that would be really bad if they lost to Michigan State.
Oh, gosh. Are they playing next? Are we going to talk about that game?
They play in 2 weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, Indiana plays Wisconsin this week. But Michigan State is struggling, and we know why, obviously. Not going to get into all that, but they were showing fight. They were kind of competitive. Rutgers, they actually should have beat Rutgers. Like, I know Rutgers is having the season they are, and I'm happy for Rutgers. But Rutgers is yet another team. I would lump them with Louisville and Erfurt, but they're worse than those two teams. But Rutgers is another team that I don't think is as good as a record. I just don't. And I know that they've got the wins. They do. But, like, Michigan State almost beat them. Michigan State had. I don't know how Rutgers came back. Correct the Rutgers, though, for doing it. But Michigan State should have beat them. They could have beat Iowa. Michigan State lost that game. Michigan State could be 4-4, but they lost those 2 games. And then this game, they just really weren't competitive. And when you give up 200 yards to Minnesota's passing attack, not great. Minnesota's passing attack is not great. It's like Minnesota's offense might be like this much better than Iowa's. It's a little better just because of the fact that they do put up more yards in games in Iowa. But when they're playing better teams, their offense is bad. But Michigan State is struggling. So Minnesota easily won.
Yeah. And then Nebraska is 1 win away from bowl eligibility, which is like crazy that they're finally going to make a bowl for the first time since I believe 2017. So they're getting there.
Nebraska is another team. You mentioned another team like Virginia Tech. If they had made the quarterback change, with Kyron Drones earlier. They could have been better. Same thing with Nebraska. I mean, Jeff Sims early in the season. That's why I'm saying if Nebraska play Colorado right now, will Colorado win? Probably not, especially if it's at Nebraska, because I know Harbor only put up a $122, but they're running the ball really well right now. So I would say that Nebraska is finally winning games that they should. Like, that was the biggest thing with Scott Frost and why they were – that's why he's fired. They didn't win the close games. And with here, Rule's doing it finally.
It took a bit because of the Minnesota game, but they eventually got over that hump.
Yeah, I thought with the Minnesota game, I was like, oh, no, is this going to be the same thing? Is tenure going to be the exact same? And no, they're finally winning. And I don't know how Purdue beat Illinois, to be honest, right now, the way that they're playing.
They blew out Illinois.
Yeah, how did they beat them? I know Illinois is bad, but Illinois beat Maryland. I know Maryland's – I don't know. The Big Ten is like the Big 12. Some of these teams are just up and down. Like Indiana, the way that Indiana played against Maryland, you would have thought they'd have got blanked against Penn State, but they almost win. So, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Good for Matt Rule in Nebraska, though. Happy to see Cornhuskers fans a bit happy. Yeah, Moose says woulda, coulda, shoulda, but didn't. I know that when you're talking about Rutgers, like I know they should have lost, but they won. It's still a good reference point to suggest that maybe that Rutgers isn't that much better. They're just getting the wins because their opponents are horrible and they're a little better.
Do you think that Nebraska can win the Big Ten West? Do you think that they can win out and do it?
Well, I mean, no other team is inspiring. I mean, what if Wisconsin loses to Indiana? I mean, it starts opening up the doors. So, yes, they could win, but I'm glad that the West is gone after this year because it's like I will never forget. If you remember the conversation that we had with me and Austin had last year when he was talking about how Iowa regressed. You remember they were a Big Ten. They went to the championship game. They won the Big Ten West. And they went 10-4, and then the next year they went 8-5. And they didn't make it. I'm like, Austin, they were the same team. They were the same team. They're still good on defense, bad on offense. They just had one game not go their way versus this year. That's literally what happened. They were the exact same team. They're still the same team. Maybe even worse on offense, but they're still the same team. And Austin was like, no, they won the West. The West, winning the West is not a compliment. I can guarantee that Indiana with Michael Penix would have won the West.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
that
Northwestern team was competitive in the championship game at least.
Well, that's true, but that year is just throw it out. Like Mark says, a lot of what happened. Like I know Indiana, that's just saying throw out their season, but even the 2019 Indiana year that they went 8-5, they would have won the West.
Do you think Jonathan Taylor was at Wisconsin? Do you still think they would have?
Okay, the Indiana team in 2019 would win the West right now.
Yeah,
okay, I'll say that. Maybe not then. And Wisconsin was better back then, but still,
they fell off after that. That was their last hurrah.
Yeah, they've been pretty bad since. Like not as good and competitive as better teams. It's crazy. Basically, I'm just glad the West is gone because you don't deserve to have the mantra, we won the West and we're really good. When you're still getting shellacked 90% of the time in the championship game and then you lose your bowl game. Like, you're not good. I mean, Purdue made a bowl game that time and lost to Auburn by 60. It's like you're not that good.
Yeah, I mean, without opt-outs, it would have been like a 20-point game, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I don't know.
They could, honestly.
It's all about if a team continues to pour it on. Like, we see a lot of games where a team takes their foot off the gas. Like, I remember Indiana 2 years ago played Ohio State, and Ohio State got 49-0 and just quit playing. Ohio State could have won 100-0. That's how bad Indiana was 2 years ago in 2021. They were that bad. So, Michigan can score 70 or 80 if they keep playing.
Yeah, the thing is, Iowa used to have, like, okay quarterback play. Like
Nate Stanley.
Bad. Yeah. Jake Rudock. Ricky Stanzi. Stanzi was good, man. I remember he made some plays.
Yeah, it's like Iowa used to be a tolerable team to watch for a person that likes offense. Like, you could watch them. You would turn them on, and you would say, well, this isn't the prettiest football, but they're good. The defense is great, and their offense does enough. Now, I would say USC's defense and Iowa's offense are definitely the laughingstock positions of college football. Everybody laughs at both sides because it's just abysmal.
All right, we need to do this. Can we please do a moment of silence for Brian Ferentz?
I mean, I have nothing to say, but Iowa might win games now. Maybe more games. They might be good on offense. I don't know.
We don't know the rest of the year, which is I don't know. I guess it's good to give them the rest of the year.
I mean, I hate it for anybody to get fired. I don't like anyone getting fired. Like when Walt Bell got fired in Indiana early this year, offensive coordinator, I wasn't happy about it, but he wasn't getting the job done. You're employed. The thing is that football is different than a regular job, but when you're at a regular job, if you're not doing your job well, they get rid of you, and they're going to get someone else to do that job better than you. When you're a coach, coordinator, it doesn't matter. You got to do your job well, and it's so easy in football to rank how you're doing because all you got to do is look at stats, and Iowa's last in offense in everything. So your offensive coordinator is not getting it done. And we know why he was there for so long. We get it. But the thing is he was not a bad O-line and tight ends coach. Why didn't they leave him at that position? He wasn't bad at that position.
Apparently, it was the athletic director's decision to do it, the new athletic directors. And apparently, Kirk is really angry now. He's not happy with the athletic director for firing his son. And I'm like, come on. How stubborn can you be?
I mean, the thing is that if it was me and I was coaching Iowa football and our offense was that bad, and I understand the family relationship aspect, but he needed to just remain at the O-line tight end position. He never needed to be OC. I mean, he never had Iowa's offense even marginally good. It was always bad. So I don't know. I don't know. All I have to say is that Iowa, I'm just excited potentially that they'll be better on offense.
Yeah. We need to get back to these days for Iowa. Here, I'm gonna wait. Crap. Here we go. We need to get. I'm about to share something.
Yeah, you're gonna show when Iowa could score.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
They wind the clock.
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
It wasn't known yet. The game's going to end on this play. He fires downfield. It's caught and into the end zone.
Yep. That's offense. That's interesting. We're happy we did our jobs well. Lo and behold, that however long ago this was, 20 years later, we can't do anything.
That was Nick Saban's last year at LSU, and
that was back in 2004. Yeah, because he was in the NFL for a couple of years. Yeah, so I can tell it's about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I could just tell because it had that gritty vibe. It wasn't like old like the 90s, but it wasn't new. Like you get around 2010 and it starts looking more modern. That was that gritty in between phase. That was the year I was born. So interesting.
Mm-hmm. Drew Tate.
Man, yeah, but see, you mentioned Iowa though. Last thing, you mentioned Iowa though. They haven't had a top 60 offense since 2007. So that was 2004. Their offense was better in the early years of Ferentz.
Mm-hmm. They had good quarterbacks. Like Drew Tate was legit. He might have been in the NFL for a bit. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Which is good.
Oh, he was CFL. Still better than. I bet Buckeye Mike knew that. He would have known that immediately.
You're like the CFL, Expo, USFL guy.
Mm-hmm.
I follow, especially Expo, USFL. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Mm-hmm. But man, I was rooting for Virginia in this game. I don't like their basketball team, but I don't mind their football team. They got close again, but they're going in the right direction under Tony Elliott finally.
I liked when Virginia. I liked when Virginia Tech was better. Back in the day when they had Michael Vick, Tyrod Taylor. But it was really interesting though when Virginia was starting to get better with like
Bryce
Bronco
Perkins.
Mendenhall and Bryce Perkins and everything, and like Virginia's like 6-5 and Virginia Tech's like 5-6. It was almost like Indiana Purdue, like early Tom Allen and like Jeff Brom as well, and like both teams weren't that good, but they were always like on the cusp of bowl eligibility. I like games like that, and that's what Virginia Tech was for like 3 years there. They were interesting games because they were always around 500.
This year it could be good too.
And Virginia's just been bad, the last couple of years, and they got the win over Carolina and first top 10 row win. It was awesome for them, but yeah, they couldn't follow it up with Miami. Miami is another team that's inconsistent though. Their talent, if Miami played to their talent level, then they would have won this game by 20. They didn't because they just didn't play that well. So Miami, if they're ever going to be good again, 2003 and earlier, you got to play consistently good football week in and week out.
I agree. Iowa State, man, Dave Aranda, man, what's going on? Blown out by Iowa State.
Yeah, Matt Campbell's kind of shocked me because I thought Iowa State was going to be bad after that Ohio loss. I mean, think about it. They'd be bowl eligible right now if they beat Ohio. And they'd be 7-1 if they beat Iowa. Like, they're this close to being 7-1. Like, you start doing it like that because I thought Iowa State was abysmal after they lost to Ohio and Iowa. I was like, they're bad. And then they're 5-3 now. Rocco Beck, their quarterback's playing good football. Like, sneakily, it's like Virginia Tech. Iowa State sneaking around. They're 4-1 in the Big 12, 5-3 overall. They're not bad. So Iowa State, I would say that this season has helped Matt Campbell almost more than any coach in college football. He needed this. See, like I wouldn't say anyone was really saying that he was like Jeff Hafley or Neil Brown level hot seat, but he was getting warm. It was getting ugly for Iowa State. They're having a good year now after the ugly start. And Baylor with Dave Aranda, I don't know. What's weird to me, and I know they lost talent at other positions, but last year they had, or I think it was last year, that was Gary Bohannon at quarterback. That was last year, right?
Yeah, I believe.
So Gary Bohannon was not perfect.
Or was that the year?
Blake Shapen was supposed to be better. Yeah, that was 2 years ago. That's what I thought. 2 years. Gary Bohannon wasn't perfect, but Blake Shapen was supposed to be an upgrade, and he really hasn't ever gotten to that point.
Yeah, I agree with Jason.
Yeah.
ECU was sad, but
yeah, East Carolina no longer has a shot to make a bowl. They're just, I knew they were going to be bad this year because they didn't get any talent in the portal. It's hard when you're a team like ECU, but you lost your three guys. Like I said, Keith Mitchell, CJ Johnson, Holton Ahlers, that was the team. And they lost a couple of defensive players, and they're just bad now. It's crazy that like 5 or 6 players has completely changed a competent, pretty good football team to now 1-7.
I'm excited to see UTSA play Tulane at some point, whether it's the championship game or.
Boise, I backed the blue field. That was my biggest win because I got the Utah game wrong, got the Louisville game wrong, but this game I was like, I'm backing the blue field, the below 500 team, and they pulled through. Boise State, probably their best performance of the entire season.
The desert, man.
Coastal beat Marshall down too. That's another one. Like Mike was here, he'd be like, "What happened with Marshall, Fancher, and Ali?" He's always talking about Fancher and Ali, but Coastal taking care of business, 5-3. That was a good win for them. Oh yeah, what Washington State is officially history. They're I don't know. They're
just make
bad,
a bowl, Washington State. No, just make a bowl.
When they beat Oregon State, you thought that they were probably a top 20 football team, right?
Yeah, I think you did too, right?
Yeah, I thought when they beat Oregon State, I'm like, I think Washington State is going to go like 8-4, maybe 9-3, possibly, and be a top 20 team. That's what I thought. What happened? What happened to their defense? Like they can't stop. I mean, Arizona State should not be scoring 38 points. USC only gave up 28.
Mm-hmm.
So is Washington State defense worse? I don't think so, but it's playing poorly. Yeah. I don't know. Washington State's had a big collapse.
Yeah. Oklahoma State tied for first now in the Big 12.
Yeah, Cincinnati, I think they're the worst team in the Big 12. I think.
Yeah, they are.
Houston can play like it at times.
Yeah.
And Baylor, but Cincinnati, I think they're the worst. But then watch them win next week. I mean, that's the Big 12 for you, but Cincinnati's not looking good.
All right, on to the previews. Fine. We made it.
Well, it would have been a little bit quicker if we didn't have the Air Force Louisville thing, but it's okay.
That was fun. All right, Maction. Toledo Buffalo, that's a fun one. Although Buffalo, I didn't look at their overall record.
Yeah, Buffalo, ever since Lance Leipold went to Kansas, has regressed. Toledo, I mean, obviously we don't watch MAC football that much. I flip it on sometimes, in the middle of the week, but I do think Toledo will win.
Jason Candle could be the next Iowa coach if Kirk leaves.
I think Indiana fans would not be upset if he went to Indiana, but the more and more Indiana keeps losing, though, it's going to become less desirable of a job.
But yeah, Toledo almost beat Illinois. They would be in that race for New Year's 6 if they would have won that one. Yeah,
that's crazy. It's kind of like that year that UTSA, it won every game. Or no, it was Louisiana Lafayette. They won every game except the Texas game. And then UTSA, I think, had 1 year they only had one loss to. I forgot who they lost to. Was it Texas as well? I think they did. Yeah, they did. Both those teams lost to Texas. Yeah. With Central Michigan, Northern Illinois, I have no idea. Rocky Lombardi, I guess him by 3. The Fighting Rocky Lombardis.
We got Connor Bazelak, man. Tough year. 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Yeah, Connor Bazelak. What happened to the guy that was at Missouri? He was pretty good at Missouri. To me, I'm still shocked he transferred from Missouri. I don't know if Brady Cook was pushing him for the job, because Brady Cook never played that year, and I think he was there. But Bazelak had a good season at Missouri, and they made a bowl game. But then he transferred to Indiana and obviously didn't work out. But now at Bowling Green, he's playing worse football than he ever has. Maybe it's their old line. I haven't watched a single game of Bowling Green's, but I will pick them to beat Ball State by 7.
I agree, Jason. That's a good point.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Jay, that's an excellent point, like Will said. That should be addressed, in the future, like if there's moves made, that you can't just flip instantly. You're not ready. I mean, if you're a team like USC, it's different than if you're, Cincinnati going to the Big 12. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm. Akron, Kent State. Oh, man.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll go with Akron's quarterback's out for the season. This is
Kent
not
State's
the same
quarterback
Akron
doesn't
team.
look very good.
This is not the same Akron team that almost beat Indiana. They were better back then. They were way better back then. DJ Irons is out for the season with an ACL. He was their quarterback. Had a good game against Indiana. Who are you going to pick?
Akron, because they're at home.
Yeah, I'll go Akron by 1.
Yeah.
21-20.
TCU, Texas Tech. Oh, man, this is a disappointment battle right here.
Yeah, especially, Texas Tech. I'll never forget they were 26th in the other receiving votes, and a lot of people thought they could maybe win the Big 12. They're like the dark horse on everyone's, dark horse list for winning a conference. Now, obviously, dark horse doesn't mean people think it's going to happen. It's just it could. TCU, they were ranked. They fell out. TCU has been up and down, though. They're like Georgia Tech, where like 1 week they get blitzed, next week they're blitzing the team they play.
TCU a little bit, too, with that BYU game. Like, they blitzed BYU, and then they get blitzed by Kansas State.
Yeah, that for sure. TCU's been doing that all year. They're like Georgia Tech. So, what did they do last week? Did they lose last week? I think that's the key. Like,
they might have been on a bye.
They were on a bye. Well, I don't know what they did last, so it kind of makes it harder to.
It was the Kansas State debacle, the 41-3 loss to Kansas State.
Chandler Morris with 12 touchdowns and 5 picks. I mean, his stats are not bad, but Tech does have a good ground attack with their top running back. I'll let you pick first, man. This one's just a toss-up.
I don't think they're going to make a bowl, Jackson. They got to play Texas at the Texas.
Yeah,
and
I would say
and
Texas Tech more
away.
likely doesn't make it.
Yeah, they have to play Kansas away and Texas away. I think it's over for the Red Raiders. Yeah, I'm going to go. This is a tough game, man. I'm going to go Texas Tech to win 27-24 just because they're at home. It's a tough game to pick.
I mean, I don't trust either team. I mean, I remember picking BYU to beat TCU, and TCU, wins by a lot. And then next game against Kansas State, as you mentioned, they get destroyed. I did pick K-State, but still. I don't know what to think about TCU. And Tech's been pretty bad, but the home field advantage helps, and that's why they're favored by 3. So basically, the bettors think this is a coin flip game.
Yeah.
I mean, neither team's very good. The bottom of the Big 12 is full of a bunch of mediocre football teams that can't decide how good or bad they want to play. So basically, you're taking a wild guess when you pick a team. I want to go TCU just because you pick Tech, but I can't do it because they've been that inconsistent. I'll go Texas Tech to win 24-21.
Yeah.
I don't think either team's good, but I'll give Tech the advantage because I mean, watch TCU win, though.
I think, yeah, for sure. I think Duke will beat Wake because their defense. I think their defense will do enough.
Yeah, Wake Forest does not have the offense that they had before. No Sam Hartman, no A.T. Perry. Their starting quarterback, 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. Riley Leonard, his health is going to be really key here in how many points Duke scores. But I do think Duke's defense should be able to hold Wake to a fairly few amount of points. That's going to be the key. If Duke can keep Wake Forest under 21 points, I think Duke will be able to score enough on Wake's defense. I'll go with Duke to win 24-17. I would pick Duke to win by more, but just because Riley Leonard's injured, doesn't look healthy, I think that's going to keep me from picking Duke by more, but I think the Blue Devils will win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this will be a scrappy, low-scoring game. I'll go 17-3 Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Syracuse. Can they get off the schneid against Boston College?
This is another game like TCU, Texas Tech. What are you supposed to do here?
Yeah.
Boston College, I think, is the worst 5-3 team in college football. It would be hard for me to find any other 5-3 team, and I mean Power 5. I'm not talking about Group of 5. Any other Power 5 team that's 5-3 that's worse than Boston College. I think it's impossible. The only other team that would even have an argument for that is if Syracuse was somehow 5-3. And they're 4-4 because they haven't been able to beat anybody in the ACC. I don't think either team's very good. I mean, the ACC at the bottom has a bunch of teams that, like I said before, a couple of them are going to make bowls that just aren't that great. It is what it is. Somebody has to get to 6. And Boston College has a prime opportunity to go in and get that out of the way if they get a win here. But like I said, I think both teams are pretty bad. I like Garrett Schrader at Syracuse. I actually think he's pretty solid, but the problem is he doesn't have Tucker anymore on the ground. And their O-line is one of the worst. And that's not an exaggeration. Their O-line is one of the worst I've ever seen. It's not in just college football. I'm talking about ever. It's bad. He has no time to do anything. And you talk about stats. Someone will look at his stats like Garrett Schrader's abysmal. No, his O-line does him no justice. And Cuse's defense, I don't know what happened to it, but it's not doing anything either. I mean, Virginia Tech, I'm not saying that they're bad. I mean, they're playing better football, but Syracuse did not stop them at all. Boston College, like I said, I don't think they're good. But I guess I'll go with Boston College to win 24-21. I cannot believe the worst 5-3 team in college football. I'm picking to win on the road. But Syracuse leaves me no choice. They have not won an ACC game. I'll go with Boston College to get it done somehow. And if they don't win, then my mind will be blown because I don't know what to think about either football team.
I mean, Tommy Castellanos, you can see he's athletic.
Mm-hmm.
But the 7 picks is bad. 7 picks is not good. So maybe if he transfers out, he can get coached better and be good. I still think they'll win this game because Syracuse is. It looks like they quit. So I'm going to go barely Catholic to win. I'll go 31-17.
Yeah, Jason says, I think Syracuse can get Boston College at home. I think. That's the way I feel about picking Texas Tech over TCU. It's an I think for sure. But to your point, he's got 9 touchdowns on the ground. He can run, the quarterback for Boston College. So, yeah, I mean, he's probably like the only reason that they're 5-3 besides the fact that their schedule's been easy. But all I know is if Boston College goes 8-4 or even 7-5, and everybody's like, Jeff Hafley, he saved the day. He's fixed Boston College. If they talk contract extension, if they went out and go 9-3, I'm going to be like, what has he done? Who has he beat? We beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's inconsistent. It's not like you've gone out on the road and beat Ole Miss. You haven't beaten Clemson. Well, Clemson's pretty bad now, but yeah, Boston College is not a good football team. They're not. And if they go 8-4, there will be people saying that Jeff Hafley did a fantastic job this year, and I disagree. I respectfully disagree, but I definitely disagree. If Boston College wins, yay, bowl eligibility, but it's a Dino Babers thing. That's not an accomplishment. It's just not very good. And any other conference, if Boston College was in the SEC or the Big Ten and they were playing a tougher schedule, one of the tougher ones anyway, like if they're in the Big Ten East, SEC West, they would be horrible. They'd be like 1-7.
Let's look at their schedule, Jason. Let's see if we get change your mind.
This is the point. Like, I know what you mean, Jason, but look who they've beaten and look who they have. They could get to 8. Cuse, Virginia Tech, Plano there, and Pitt. They could. They actually could.
I think they'll get to 7.
Mm-hmm. It's more likely they beat Syracuse and Pitt at this point with the way Virginia Tech's been playing. But you never know. And Miami can lose to anybody. We're talking about Miami beat Virginia by 3. So, yeah, Boston College has a chance to go 9-3. And
they also beat Virginia by 3.
Boston College will be the worst 9-3 football team in the history of college football in the Power 5, probably, if they did win out. I think that is not crazy. They'd be one of the worst anyway. But, again, I'm happy Boston College isn't horrible, and I hope Jeff Hafley saves his job. I just don't think they've beaten anybody good. I mean, look at their last 4 wins. Virginia's not good. Army's terrible, and they won by 3. And then UConn, they won by 7. And they lost to Holy Cross. Or no, they lost to Northern Illinois. Was that it? They lost to Northern Illinois. If you scroll back up, that's it. They beat Holy Cross, right?
I think they
yeah, that's it. They beat Holy Cross and they lost to Northern Illinois. That's it. So they could have been 10-2. They had a shot to go 10-2, but they didn't do it because they lost to Northern Illinois somehow. But yeah,
imagine if they beat FSU, man. They would be ranked now.
They'd be ranked, and then contract extension. That really would be happening right now. It would be. It's insane. I mean, I'm not trying to make it as a joke. I'm, again, happy for BC, but I do think most Boston College fans realize that their team isn't very good. Just happy to be 5-3 because of the schedule.
I mean, at least their O-line's not as bad as it was last year. I remember they're putting like tight ends at O-line because everyone got hurt. And no one that.
Imagine, though, if Castellanos had Zay Flowers. They probably beat Florida State. Think about it, because Zay Flowers is lighting it up in the NFL. He had no one, because when Jurkovec started to play bad because he was just banged up, Zay Flowers, no one was throwing the ball. But now you've got Castellanos, who his stats are good enough. With Zay Flowers, it might have been even better. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Back up at UCF last year, and he shined as a starter. Shined enough. All right, Irish. One last semi-tough game of the year. And if we do this, if we win this game, we should be able to beat Wake, Stanford, and what's our other game? take Stanford.
You're the Notre Dame expert.
Gosh darn it. Oh, it is just Wake and Stanford. Okay,
Yeah,
I
'cause
forgot.
you
We have
got
another
9
bye
games.
week.
I mean, you only have 3 games left. That's crazy.
Yeah. But we have to go to the real Death Valley in Clemson, South Carolina.
This is crazy. Have to interrupt real quick. Jason says, fun fact, when the Big East was forming, they invited Holy Cross. When Holy Cross declined, they invited BC. If Holy Cross said it, BC would probably be in the Patriot League or maybe the A-10 right now.
That would be
That's
crazy.
insane. That would be insane. And the thing is, it wouldn't even surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all because the way Boston College plays at time in both sports, they don't look like a ACC team. But that's wild. But to the game at hand, Notre Dame traveling to Clemson. This game right here, Will, just for your sake, because you're the Notre Dame fan, and obviously when I know someone that is a fan of the team, I want them to win. I want Notre Dame to win for you. But it's not only that. I will be upset if Notre Dame loses this game because I've picked Clemson to win every single game that they've lost this season. Every game. The Duke game, pick Clemson. Florida State game, pick Clemson. NC State game, pick Clemson. They've lost them all. Every single time that Clemson has played an opponent that they did not beat, I pick Clemson. Every time. So I don't know what to do here because Notre Dame is so much better than Clemson. They are way better right now on offense, on defense. I would argue Notre Dame is more depth than Clemson by far because Clemson just doesn't have it. Clay Klubnik has been playing nowhere near to the level Sam Hartman's been playing at. Sam Hartman, even though he's had a couple games where he didn't put up a lot of stats, he's been playing pretty good football. He's been getting the job done. He probably can make, an NFL roster. Estimate's been good on the ground. Mitchell Evans, it stinks that he's out. But like you said, Notre Dame, good backup tight end, no problem. So why am I so nervous about this game? Because something tells me that Clemson's going to do this to me. If I go Notre Dame, Clemson will win. It's like I know what I picked does not affect the result because it's just me making a pick. There's tons of other people picking this game, but sometimes you get those kind of vibes, and I'm getting that vibe to pick Clemson. But I can't do it. I cannot pick Clemson. I've picked them 4 times. They've let me down every time. I can't do. I mean, the phrase "you fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me." They fooled me 4 times. That makes me look really good picking Clemson. Makes me look really good. And that's sarcasm because it made me look terrible. So I'm not picking Clemson. I am not going to pick Clemson. But I would not be shocked if they won. That's all I can say. I would not be shocked if Clemson won this game. But I'm going to go with Notre Dame. Can't let me down, Will. Cannot let me down, Sam Hartman. You cannot let me down, Marcus Freeman. I'm going to go with Notre Dame to win on the road 31-24. Get it done. Beat Clemson. Show that I'm right for not picking the Tigers. I'm going Notre Dame.
All right, pep talk. I'm pep talking the team right now. All right, Coach Will. Defensive line, Riley Mills, Howard Crosh, Javante Jean-Baptiste, Jordan Batoho. Just get to Clay Klubnik. He will make mistakes. That's what we've seen. If you can get to Clay Klubnik, our secondary has been probably the strength of this team. Just get it to him. He's going to throw something stupid. Someone on the secondary is going to pick it off. Easy short field for Sam Hartman, Oscar Estime, Holden Stace, Rigo Flores. That's all we got to do, I feel like, to win this game. Because the defense has been playing so great. If they just continue to do what they do, I have a feeling we'll win. Just please show
Notre
up.
Dame just cannot let the crowd get involved. Yeah. Can't do it. You just cannot let Death Valley become a factor. You get down by 10 or something like that, and Clemson's crowd's rocking, and then the team gets hyped. That's dangerous. I can't say Clemson's throwing the towel. It's a Dabo-led team, but this year has to wake Dabo Swinney's eyes that things need to change. Clemson is no longer, it was when they were losing 2 or 3 games, it was like, you know what, Clemson's not as good as they were, but they're still a really good team. No, they've fallen off. This isn't Alabama lost to Texas at home, and it's their first home loss since Joe Burrow, and now Alabama's terrible. Now, Alabama's still good. Are they as good as they were? No, but they're still good. Clemson's fallen off, officially. They're not good like they were. Dabo has to fix this. Just don't fix it in this game. Come on, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Let me be right once on not picking
All right.
Clemson.
Now let's see if Clemson can make a bowl. They
lose
should.
this
They
game,
should. We
it's
should
gonna
not
be
be asking
hard.
this question.
It's not guaranteed. It's
They
not
could lose to
guaranteed.
Georgia Tech or both Carolina.
That is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Clemson could legit. They could lose to South Carolina. They actually could. It's on the road, and if Rattler has one of those games, you never know. They could lose all these. If I had to put a bet down right now, I would say it's more than likely than not they do make it, that they win 2 of these, but it's not guaranteed, and that, again, shows you how bad they are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Unfortunately, we've lost Will. So I will try to keep us going here. Okay, I think Will's
I
coming
hit
back.
the freaking wrong. I was meaning to hit
I was about to
back
say,
on
I was
the
going to have to start
ESPN
on my
website. I
own.
accidentally hit back on StreamYard.
Oh, man. Okay.
So goofy of me.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
All right.
I've done it once myself, just once.
All right. Austin's here. We could talk about Virginia Tech going up against Louisville. Both teams battling at the top of the ACC.
Yeah, Louisville. I still don't trust them 100%. I don't. But Virginia Tech is not as good of a team as Louisville. They're just not. Virginia Tech's improved, and Kyron Drones has been playing well. And they're 3-1 in the ACC. But who they've beaten is a bunch of teams that are kind of throwaways. They're not great. I mean, they've got a couple decent wins, but still, they're not great wins. It's at Louisville. If it was at Virginia Tech and this was on the CW, I'd be picking Virginia Tech. But it's not on the CW, and it's at Louisville. So I got to go with Austin's team. I know that I've said that I don't trust Louisville, and I know that I've said that they're not as good as their record would suggest, in my opinion, but they're still a good team. Jeff Bron's made him a lot better. Plummer's not perfect, which is a lot where my criticism of the team comes from. I don't mention him, but Plummer is inconsistent. Sometimes Plummer makes a throw that just makes your eyes want to bleed. Like, it's that bad. And then other times he gets it done. He gets it to thrash. Jordan has good game on the ground. Jordan's always playing well. Jordan's probably the one constant for Louisville, but I'd be curious to see them play a team with a really good D-line. Would he be able to have success? I don't know, because I don't feel like he's had a lot of that. I know he ran on Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was gassed. They just were. But Thrash is a good receiver, and when Plummer doesn't make mistakes, he can be solid. Louisville's more talented. I'll go with the Cardinals to win 34-20. I think Virginia Tech can keep it relatively close, but I think Louisville will win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Austin said, Jordan just thrashed us in that one game, and I feel like he's just going to continue to do that to other teams as well. I'm going to go Louisville 31, Tech 14.
Mm-hmm. I think Louisville's a good team, and I'm definitely higher on them than I was before. I was not as high on Louisville. I had Louisville and Kentucky in the same boat. Kentucky's proved that they're not that great. Louisville still looking pretty good. And again, the schedule's made it a bit easier, but I have to admit Louisville is pretty good. They're a good team. Ohio
State going to Piscataway.
Rutgers is not as tough of a place to play as Camp Randall. And it's a noon game. I mean, you could say Ohio State might be a little sleepy, but Rutgers almost lost to Michigan State. Then that's enough said. Rutgers isn't on Ohio State's level. I'll go with the Buckeyes to win 35-14.
It's crazy that Rutgers is already bowl eligible. Like, I know they've had a pretty easy schedule, but
to Jack's point, I'm amazing Rutgers is on CBS, but so is Indiana. Twice.
They were also on CBS earlier in the year.
Yeah, against Northwestern. And that game was not a high-profile game. But that was because it was week 1, and they were putting as many games on the major networks as possible across the many days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But, yeah, I know what you mean, Jackson, though. Like, Rutgers is better, but they're not on Ohio State's level.
If they didn't have Marvin Harrison, I would be like, okay, maybe Rutgers could do it, but not with Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison.
Besides Notre Dame, he torches every team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna. Yeah,
Austin
I'll go.
says he picked Ohio State only 27-20.
I mean, Rutgers defense is good, so I'll give him. I'll go 31-3. I'll give him a field goal.
My thing is that I think I said 35-14. I mean, I'm being nice to Rutgers. I on the score there because Penn State only scored 12. Wisconsin only scored 10. And Rutgers' offense is probably worse. It's way worse than Penn State's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably worse than it is worse than Wisconsin. Rutgers lost to Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So Rutgers is not going to score a lot of points in this game. If Rutgers won, I would be shocked. Would it be to the point where I would say I had no inkling that this could occur? No. I mean, it'd be like Ohio State playing the Citadel. Could they lose? Yeah, but Rutgers is still not on their level. If Ohio State even plays a D+ game, they'll still win.
Mm-hmm. All right. Kansas State, Texas.
This is sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sneaky game here because Texas, I don't trust. You talk about where I don't think Louisville's as good as a record kind of thing. Texas is a team I don't trust ever. And I still don't. I know they beat Alabama, and that was great. That was great stuff from Texas. But you lost to Oklahoma. You struggled against Houston. I know you blew out BYU. That was a good win.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State is weird. I mean, the Oklahoma State loss is obviously not a bad loss anymore, the way Oklahoma State's playing. And the loss at Missouri has not aged poorly because Missouri's been good. Mm-hmm. So it's at Texas. So, yeah, Texas is a tougher team, and it's a tougher road environment than Oklahoma State and Missouri. But it's not impossible that K-State could win.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick a major upset, this would be the game. I think Kansas State could actually win. But as long as Texas can get the ground game going, because that's the key. When Texas can run the football and to complement Ewers, that's when they are dangerous. When they can't run the football, that's when they struggle. I think they'll be able to run the football enough. I could, like I said, easily see them losing, but I will take Texas to beat Kansas State 31-28. I think it's going to be very close, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious if we see both quarterbacks from Kansas State or just Will Howard.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be definitely interesting. But I think Texas, as you said, I don't think it'll be easy. But I do think Texas will win. I'll go Horns 27-24.
Jason says DKR isn't as tough of a road environment as people think. K-State can definitely win there. Well, when they were playing Alabama last year, it was. I know what you mean, though. I mean, is it top 5, 10 in the country? Probably not. But it's still a tough road environment. And Texas is 7th in the country, so they'll probably be pretty loud.
Yeah. A&M Ole Miss, sneaky good game.
A&M's more talented than Ole Miss, but it's at Ole Miss, and A&M hasn't played great this season. A&M is one of those teams, though, that they always get one. You know, like they got LSU last year. A&M, I could see them winning this game, but Ole Miss, the weird thing about Ole Miss, though, and to kind of switch gears, Ole Miss always plays better at the beginning of the season. They always start to fade late, if you've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, weren't they like 7-1 last year, and then they ended up like 8-4?
Well, they had the one Matt Corral year. That was it, really. That one.
Yeah. Outside of that, though, they usually fade late in seasons. So I could see them losing this game. Like I said, A&M's the more talented team. It's why Ole Miss is only favored by 3. But I like Jackson Dart, and Judkins has been playing better lately. I'll take Ole Miss 31-28, just like with Texas K-State, but I could see A&M winning.
I mean,
I could be wrong on
they never play up to their talent, so that's why, to me, talent doesn't matter when you're talking about A&M because Jimbo is Jimbo.
I know what you mean. You're right.
Yeah,
but it's still worth mentioning because they are more talented on paper, but paper don't win games.
Jimbo always has 4 losses usually. I mean, they could have 5, which would mean they would win the LSU game if they were to get it. But yeah, I just think that Judkins will chug along. Dart will make a couple plays. I'm going to go Ole Miss to beat A&M again, like they did last year. I'll go 38-24.
Yeah, these two games, though, back to back, if it's Saturday afternoon and the noon games are done and Kansas State and Texas A&M won, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
But I do think Texas and Ole Miss will win home field advantage. Ole Miss not as talented as A&M, but playing better football. Texas more talented than K-State. I think they'll get it done, but I wouldn't be shocked if they lost.
Mm-hmm. UConn,
Tennessee
man.
blowing out UConn. That would be the upset of the year if UConn beat Tennessee. Volunteers should easily win.
Arkansas, Florida could be. I mean, I hope Arkansas can get off the schneid, but I don't know. Not looking good.
This is the type of game, though, that Florida could choke. They've done it before. Yeah. They've lost games like this in the past. But Arkansas lost to Mississippi State at home 7-3. I mean, Arkansas would have to play like they did against Bama to beat Florida. And every team usually gives Bama their best crack at it. Mm-hmm. Florida's at home. I don't think they're going to back down to the Razorbacks. I think Tom Petty will pull them through in the fourth quarter. Graham Mertz has been playing consistently well. 14 touchdowns, 2 picks. Again, Graham Mertz has been better than people expected. I don't think anyone would have thought he would have had 14 touchdowns to 2 picks. Is he perfect? No. But he's actually played better than most people have actually, really thought. I think a lot of his Florida's defense has been inconsistent. Some of the games, like against Kentucky, their defense was awful. That Kentucky game, Florida's defense was up there with USC and UNC for how bad it was, especially against the run D. Ray Davis just ran all over the place. But Arkansas hasn't been good on offense, so I think Florida will win 31-17.
Man, I had no idea that Tom Petty was from Gainesville.
You didn't know that?
No.
I don't think a lot of people did until, obviously when he unfortunately passed away a few years ago. And then they talked about it and they started the tradition. But yeah, I knew about it before. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people did.
All right. I mean, I feel like Arkansas should be able to run it a bit, but I still think Florida wins 38-14.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't think Arkansas is very good, unfortunately, for Sam Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I like him.
Yeah, I hope the Sam Pittman can turn it around, but it's just not looking that good for him right now, and Arkansas is really struggling.
Mm-hmm. Wisconsin taking on Indiana.
Man, if Indiana had a beat Penn State, I'm telling you right now, you know who I would have been picking. You know who I would have picked if they had a beat Penn State. I would have been like, Indiana's back. Tom Allen saving his job, but they still lost. I mean, was Penn State sleepwalking a bit? After they lost to Ohio State, I mean, what was going on? I mean, did Indiana really play that well? It's hard to know. And yes, that safety, yes. The safety was one of the worst plays ever. It's an exaggeration. I've seen a lot of bad plays in my life, but that was pretty bad. It was up there. So it's at Indiana, and this is Indiana's last chance. This is basically the season, because if you lose the game, you're out of bowl eligibility. You win the game, Illinois, Purdue, and Michigan State are all worse than Wisconsin, so Indiana can still make a bowl game, but they got to win this game. Obviously have a shot. They're not going to get in at 5-7. The academic stuff, like if there's a team or two that don't play, they're not going to give it to Indiana. So they're done for a bowl if they lose. Wisconsin has been poor at times. They've had a couple of games this year. They've been terrible. Tanner Mordecai, his stats are bad. And without Ches Malusi, that's diluted their ground attack. Braylon Allen's great, though. He's really good.
Is he out? Is he out?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I wouldn't know, though. I don't know that. I know Ches Malusi's out for the season, but is Braylon Allen playing?
Did he get hurt? I thought he got hurt. Maybe not.
Yeah, I know Ches Malusi's out. I don't know about Braylon Allen.
He's going to be questionable.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, probably means he'll play. But, I mean, even if he does play and he's not maybe up to snuff 100%, that could tilt Indiana's
You're left in the second quarter of the Ohio State game.
Jackson says Mordecai's out. See, I'm just obviously not knowing much about what's going on with Wisconsin football. So if he's out, how did the backup play then? I have no idea.
All right, I'll pull up the Ohio State stats.
Did you know Mordecai was out?
No, I knew that Allen was. I didn't know about Mordecai. Lock.
Okay. So basically Wisconsin's banged up bad. So realistically, that makes Indiana's chances to win the game better. Since their quarterback's out, even though Mordecai struggled, and you talk about Braylon Allen being banged up, no Malusi. If Indiana's offense was consistently playing better football before the Penn State game, I would have picked Indiana to win. I'm actually this close. I really am. But Indiana hasn't won a Big Ten game this year. And Wisconsin, as banged up as they are, they're still more talented on both lines of scrimmage. I'll go with Wisconsin to win 27-21. I'll keep it close because they're not 100%. And I think Indiana will play relatively hard to try to save their bowl eligibility. But I think Wisconsin will win in the end 27-21.
Yeah, this should be a good. I don't know, man. I'm hoping Indiana can keep it competitive. I'll go 31-10 Wisconsin just because I don't know, man. Indiana, can they put it together for 2 straight games? I have my
We'll
doubts,
see.
but-
Brendan Sorsby had a good game. Maybe he could follow it up. I mean, like I said, it's their last chance for bowl eligibility, and Wisconsin being banged up could be close, but you could be right. Indiana could fold again and get blown out. We'll see. Hopefully, it's a close game.
Nebraska trying to confirm their bowl eligibility with a possible win over Michigan State.
I'm back in the Cornhuskers. Nebraska, if you remember 3 weeks ago, I said that Nebraska, they have to beat somebody for me to pick them. For me to start backing them. They've been doing it. They're getting it done. Michigan State, as you said, maybe the worst Power 5 team, unless it's Indiana or some other team. Still don't think it's Indiana. I don't, but Indiana hasn't played great, but I don't know. Nebraska, though, is better than Michigan State. Harbur's been good on the ground. They've been having a good ground attack. They've been taking care of the ball more lately. I'll go with the Cornhuskers to win 27-17. They'll win on the road by 10.
Yeah, I'll go 28-10.
Mm-hmm.
Similar score. I think, yeah, it's a good story for Nebraska this year.
Oh, for sure. Hopefully they can build on it for the future. I love these games like this, though, Will, where you got a 7-2 team playing a 2-6 team. It's the Gamecock Bowl, so that's interesting. But look at the record: 7-2 playing at 2-6, and SC is still favored by 15.5. That just cracks me up because it looks so weird.
Man.
So I would say South Carolina's the more talented team. Rattler, he has not had a lot of time to throw, but I do think they'll beat Rich Rod's team 31-21. 31-21.
Yeah, I'll keep my eye on it, though, for sure. I'll keep my eye on it. Utah should beat Arizona State.
If North Carolina lost to Campbell, though, that would be just unbelievable. That they're going to win. Jack said the same. Surely UNC can't lose to Campbell. Hopefully not. Yeah, Utah's going to win. Utah's going to bounce back. I think they're going to win 27-14.
Georgia Tech and Virginia on the CW.
See, here's the thing, though. See, I got a loophole. Here's the loophole, Will. The favorites lose on the CW. And Georgia Tech, they lose a game, win a game, lose a game, win a game, like you said. So
something's got to give.
They should lose, right? Because they won the last game, but Virginia's favored. So the favorites lose. So do I pick based off the network, what's been going on, where the favorites lose, or do I go with Georgia Tech can't win 2 in a row? I don't know, but I think Georgia Tech a little bit more than that CW curse, as Sports Talk with Austin said. I'm going to go with Georgia Tech to beat Virginia. On the CW, the favorite's going to lose again. I'm going Yellow Jackets 27-24.
That was pretty much what I was going to say. So I'll go 21-10 Georgia Tech. 21-20. Sorry, 21-20. I think it'll be a good game.
That's hilarious, Jackson. Wait a minute, Virginia's favorite. Georgia Tech will win. I'm telling you, man, it's going to break eventually. I don't think that it's going to keep happening, but For real, though. Georgia Tech, you got to keep the streak going. You're the underdog. Got to win.
Mm-hmm. ACC is wild this year.
Yes, Sports also, we know that CW occurred. Yeah, it bit Louisville and Carolina. It bit them hard.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Missouri, Georgia.
Oh, man. This game right here, I'm just looking forward to seeing if Missouri can compete, because Georgia is a team that, I don't know about you, Will, but when I look at Georgia, they sometimes overlook your Auburns, your South Carolinas. But when they played ranked Kentucky, they blitzed them. Will they do it again? Will they destroy Mizzou because they're ranked, because there's hype, and a lot of people think Missouri's good? So will people, hype Missouri to a point where it makes Kirby Smart tell his team, we can't overlook the Tigers. We got to blitz them like we did with Kentucky? I think it's probably more likely that occurs than it is a close game or Missouri wins. I could see Missouri winning. Like I said, if they won, I wouldn't be completely blown away. But I just think it's better when Georgia doesn't think a team's good. Since Missouri is ranked and they're 7-1, I think Georgia's going to be prepared for this game. Missouri's played well. Been really proud of him this season. Drinkwitz, unlike some other coaches that have been up and down, he's saved his job. But I'll go with Georgia to win 35-21. I think that the Bulldogs will pull away early. Missouri might get a touchdown or two late, make it kind of closer than it is. But I just think Georgia's going to easily win. They'll be prepared for Missouri because they're ranked.
Yeah, I'll go 38-3 Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State should destroy Pitt.
Yeah, Jackson said maybe Florida State pitch to switch to the CW. Yeah. But I agree. I think Florida State will win.
Penn State, Maryland.
This is a weird game because Maryland's played horribly in their last two losses to Illinois Northwestern. You could see Maryland playing better because it's like they're playing a top team and they want to get back on track, show people that they're good. But they've really played bad, though, last 2 weeks. Yeah. Their defense has not looked good. I'll go with Penn State, even though they look bad against Indiana, but I got to give Indiana a little respect. So I'll go with Penn State to get another win, even though they struggle against IU. They'll beat Maryland on the road 31-24. I think Maryland will fight and compete, though.
It feels like Maryland never fights against Penn State, though, like every time they play. Like, I want them to, but they just fail. So I'll go 45-14.
I don't know why they lost, though, to Illinois and Northwestern. I don't get it. I mean, you could have been 7-1, ranked, and like I said, people thinking that you were the fourth best team in the league. And how much hype would there have been for this game if Maryland was 7-1 and they were ranked? You would think about the hype. There would be a lot of hype for this game. And the thing is, I don't know if you saw, but when Maryland played Indiana, I understand it's Indiana, and Indiana it's not a big draw. But Maryland, the seats were half empty. Yeah. There's no fans. Like, you even see Jason here. I'm trying to sell the Maryland Penn State Day. No one wants them.
The problem with Maryland is Maryland is like 15 minutes outside DC. And DC is like not really a college sports town. I mean, when Georgetown's good, people care. But at basketball, people care. And even Maryland basketball is still a bit of a draw. I mean, not as much. When they left the ACC, like, not as many people go to the games, but it's just, I don't know, it's tough to get.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You're right. But the fan support is low, for Maryland football. So that'll make
it feels like just as many people show up to Maryland lacrosse games than Maryland football. It's weird.
They probably do.
Yeah. Because they're a blue blood for lacrosse, but.
Mm-hmm. Did you already say your score for this one?
Yeah. All right, the last we have a bedlam until maybe they could mean a bowl game, but this may be the last time that they play in the series.
Yeah, it stinks with these type of games like Oregon State, Washington State, Oklahoma State, that they're going away because of the moves, with the conferences. It stinks because they're great in-state rivalries, but it is what it is. We know why all these moves are being made, but got to enjoy this one while we still have it for this game. And I think it's going to be a great game. Oklahoma State, I would have never have said this 5-6 weeks ago. Like Oklahoma State losing to South Alabama 33-7. And then people thought that they were the worst, that Mike Gundy was probably going to be fired and all that. Turnaround, 6-2, and they're the first team in the other team votes. So they're 2016. They're almost 25th. K-State got the nod. So this is a game that could prove Oklahoma State is a great team this season. That Alan Bowman has been able to improve to the point where he can win a massive game like this. The K-State win was great. Don't get me wrong, that was a great win. But this would be even bigger. And the thing is, I could see Oklahoma losing this game because their defense did not impress me against Kansas. And I know that this is a rivalry game, so Oklahoma should play harder, but you shouldn't have to have it be a rivalry game to play hard. Oklahoma disappointed me against Kansas. They really did. And this is going to be a game where they either come back around and play harder and want to keep their playoff hopes alive and win this game against the rival in the final edition of Bedlam where they're playing annually, or they have another bad game and Oklahoma State, being the upstart team they are, play better. I'll let you pick first because I am legitimately thinking back and forth on this.
To me, this just smells like an upset. Like, Oklahoma already losing the game. They're down on themselves. I could regret this, but I'm going to pick the Sooners to win 38-34.
So you're going Oklahoma.
Oklahoma State, sorry.
Oh, you said Sooners. I wasn't sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm coin flipping on this one. I'm really trying to think an angle here because what angle can you go? Oklahoma lost last week. Will they bounce back, play back? I don't know. I really just don't know. I guess I was vastly disappointed in them. They disappointed me against Kansas. I thought they'd win. I knew Kansas was better and everything, but without Jalen Daniels, I just didn't think Oklahoma was going to lose and their playoffs hopes and everything. It's just that was a bad loss. I'm kind of leaning your way, man. I think that Oklahoma could lose again. I mean, I really want to go Oklahoma because they're the better team. They're more talented. But the other thing is you look at Oklahoma State's running back, 1,087 yards and 10 touchdowns. And Oklahoma giving up that many yards to Jason Bean with the QB position running the ball. They could give up a lot of yards on the ground to the running back. I'll go with Oklahoma State to win 31-27. I could be wrong. And like you, I wanted to go Oklahoma, but that loss to Kansas was just not good. And I think the Sooners not the Sooners, but the Pokes with how well they played, I think they'll beat the Sooners. I'll go with you. That James Madison game, though, that's a good game. Real quick, that James Madison game is really good. At Georgia State, Georgia State's playing good football. I could legitimately see a loss here, just like with the Old Dominion game. James Madison only won by 3. Man, that's tight. I'll go with James Madison, I think, because McLeod's been playing so well for the Dukes. But look at Georgia State's running back. 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. Definitely, I think Georgia State could win this one. I really do. But I'll go with James Madison to win 27-24. That's a good underrated game, though.
Can we please skip these games?
I'll go Minnesota and I guess Iowa. Minnesota by 3, Iowa by 3. Would not be surprised if it went the other way, though.
All right. Sorry, I gotta get these done. I gotta get this.
I'll go with Baylor to beat Houston by 1, 21-20. Home field. I want to go Houston, but man, they played really bad last week.
Man, I guess I'll go Baylor.
Yeah.
And then I guess UCF. I don't know.
Yeah, UCF's better than Cincinnati. I know they're both 0-5, but UCF at least has shown times of playing one. Emory Jones has been too turnover prone. I think that the Knights with Gus Malzahn will get a road win 27-17. Cincinnati's really struggled on offense this season. I'll go Coastal by 3 over Old Dominion.
I feel like last year Vandy could win this game especially against a Brian Harsin coach Oliver team.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if they're that much better this year, but Vandy's just so much worse.
But Vanderbilt being so much worse, to your point, and Auburn's better, I think that if Mike Wright was still Vanderbilt, it'd be maybe a bit better. But him being gone, Vanderbilt's quarterback play has been terrible. I'll go with Auburn to win 27-17. It might be a bit close early, but Auburn has more talent. I think they'll pull away.
Mm-hmm. Oregon should count.
Yeah, I think Oregon will win that one by like 28. California, I know they can put up points, but Oregon's a better defensive team than Washington and USC, which Cal put points on. I'll go with Oregon to win 49 to, I guess, like 21.
Oh, here we go. Kansas, Iowa State.
Yeah, the Marshall-App State game, I'll go with App State at home because Marshall's been really struggling this season. I'll go App State by 3. But yes, Kansas, Iowa State, that's a really good game. Jayhawks, I could see a loss here because of the fact that they just got the big win over Oklahoma. And I really like Kansas, but they've done this in the past, with Lance Leipold, where they've gotten a big win and then they slipped up the next week. And Iowa State's playing really good football, and it's at home. I'll go with Iowa State to beat Kansas 34-31. I could be wrong and regret that because I did pick against Kansas last week. So if Kansas wins again, I might have to back the Jayhawks this time, but I think I'll go with Iowa State.
I gotta admit, I haven't watched much Iowa State this year.
I don't think a lot of people have.
I think it's whoever turns the ball over less. Rocco Beck and Jason Bean. They both have turnover problems a bit. I definitely think they'll be a big factor in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But like you, I will lean Iowa State. I think they'll get it done 28-24.
I just think there's a letdown effect because you got the big win. You're going on the road to a team that's been playing much better football, and they're 4-1 in the Big 12, have a shot to make the Big 12 title game if things break their way and they keep winning. I just think that Kansas might fall short. It pains me to do that to them because of how well they played last week, but I just think Iowa State will get it done. Could be wrong.
Ooh, Baylor, West Virginia is good.
I don't trust Neil Brown. I've made that apparent a lot this season, and I've been proved right with how inconsistent West Virginia still is. But Keaton Slovis struggled last week. Granted, West Virginia is nowhere near as good, as Texas. With West Virginia's defense nowhere near as good as Texas defense. So I think Keaton Slovis will have more success against the Mountaineers than he did against the Longhorns. But it's still on the road. Country Roads is a tough place to play. I don't trust Neil Brown, though, man. I really want to go BYU, but I'll pick West Virginia to win 28-27. I'll give it to them by 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still have to pick West Virginia because they're at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it'll be close. What you said 27-24?
28-27 West Virginia.
Okay, I'll go 27-24 West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a close game because, like I said, if Mountaineers were more consistent, I'd pick them by more because they should probably win by more at being at home. They have more talent than BYU, but with the track record Neil Brown has had, you just can't trust him to make it easy to make a bowl game here and save his job. It's going to be close. It's going to be an interesting game, but I think that West Virginia's just a bit better and they'll pull it out.
Mm-hmm.
San Diego State, I'll go by 1. They're playing bad football, but I think at home they might win.
Man, Michigan and Purdue on the NBC. They could have gotten anything better.
Yeah, that's a terrible game to have on NBC.
I mean, I know Michigan's a brand, but
yeah, but Purdue, this isn't Jeff Brom's Purdue. I mean, they're worse. They had the one win over Illinois, but other than that, they've been abysmal, and they seem to be getting worse as the season goes along. So in Michigan, like I said, we know the stuff going on, everybody. I mean, you have to put a caveat when you're talking about them. Michigan will be really good in the playoffs here if they're able to. We don't know what's going on. There's a lot of factors, variables that hasn't come out yet. So until we know and what's going to happen, we just don't know. But right now, barring any of that, Michigan's been dominant against everybody, and that should continue in this game. I'll go with Michigan to win 49-10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Michigan, they take their starters out early, so they usually don't cover the spread. But Purdue's that bad, I think they'll cover it. I'll go 42-10. Well, actually, I guess that's not covering the spread. Whatever. 42-10 Michigan.
It's basically on the nose. Maybe the line will change.
We have USC and Washington.
This game right here, Will, I literally been thinking about all day because you've got Washington. Like I said, against Arizona State, their defense got the win for them. And then against Stanford, their offense got the win for them, but the defense did not. If they want to win this game, it doesn't matter that USC's defense is abysmal. It doesn't matter. You have to play well on both sides of the ball, Washington, if you want to go on the road and get this win. You're only favored by 3.5 because Caleb Williams is on that field. And Caleb Williams can score. So Washington's defense, to me, is the absolute most important position on that field for both teams. Even more than anything USC is going to do. Because we know what USC is going to do. They're going to play bad defense. And they're going to play good offense. We get that. It's well documented. With Washington, they've been up and down. So if Washington plays poor on defense, USC could win in a shootout like Austin is saying here, 45-41. But if Washington's defense plays like it did against Arizona State, some of the other opponents that they played, even against Oregon, might be enough. I think that Caleb Williams might have a pick. Maybe they make a mistake or two. They get a couple stops. That will allow Washington to make a couple mistakes on offense and still win the game because their defense forced USC to make mistakes. It all is going to come down to Washington's defense because I think Washington's offense is going to just easily score because of how bad USC's defense is. I think Penix might throw for 500 in this game. I'd be shocked if he didn't. 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. It should be a big offensive day from Washington. The defense, though, if they play better than USC's defense, they will win this game. But they cannot play like they did against Stanford on defense. That was bad. So, like I said, I don't trust this pick, but I'm going to trust Washington's defense more than USC's. And I think both Washington's offense and USC's offense is going to be great like it always is, except Washington against Arizona State. If that was a blip, maybe, it's just a bad game. I'll go with Washington to beat USC 45-38. I think Washington's defense will get one more stop than USC, and the Huskies will be able to get a big win on the road, keep their college football playoff dreams alive. I could be wrong because if Washington's defense plays poor, USC can win, but I'll go with Washington and Michael Penix and that defense to get at one stop and be able one more stop than USC will and get the win.
I believe that Washington's offense and defense will show up because they're playing a ranked team. And the USC, obviously, they're blue blood, they're a brand. I think Washington will be ready to play. I'm going 42-38 Washington. I think that their defense will struggle a bit, but
yeah, because Caleb Williams is going to put up a lot of points and yards like he always does. It's going to be tough for Washington's defense, but if they just play better than USC's defense, which is a low bar, then I think that they will be able to pull out the win. It should be a great game, and this is one of the games I'm looking forward to the most out of all the games in college football this week, except another one that we haven't got to yet.
Taking Mississippi State, I don't know who the heck's going to win.
Leary has been better than any quarterback Mississippi State's had. Kentucky's offense
fair.
has struggled, but Ray Davis should eat up Mississippi State on the ground. I mean, Mississippi State's defense has struggled, except in the Arkansas game, but Arkansas has not had a lot of offense. I'll go with Kentucky. Even though I don't think they're a great team, I think they will win on the road at Mississippi State 24-14. Mississippi State's really struggling.
Yeah. You said 42-14? Well, I'll go 35-14. I think Mississippi State's defense isn't that bad. They could be. Who knows? LSU, Alabama.
That's the game I'm talking about right there. I'm looking forward to Washington, USC, but I'm looking forward to LSU at Alabama because, like I said a couple weeks ago, Alabama just keeps on creeping up in the AP poll. And we're going to see where they are in the college football playoff rankings coming up tonight. It's already Halloween on the East Coast. Happy Halloween, everybody. But definitely Alabama, they have more talent than LSU on defense and on offense. They're still the more talented team. But LSU's good. Jayden Daniels, look at the stats. You talk about Heisman candidates. No one has Jayden Daniels in the conversation. Those stats are insane. Like, I understand that LSU has 2 losses. They're not in the playoff hunt. But look at the stats. you can't deny that they're insane. They're really good, and he's a big reason why LSU has been as good as they have been. But the defense has been poor. Like you said, usually LSU's defense is good, but not this year. Alabama has struggled on offense at times, but Jalen Milroe has been playing better, more consistently. And Alabama's getting the ground game going the last couple weeks, which is key for a win against LSU because the Tigers' defense has not been stopping rushing attacks. So I think that Alabama will be able to run the football a lot in this game. It is also at home. Bryant-Denny Stadium plays a major factor. You know, the crowd's going to be insane at night. It's going to be very loud. I think that if this was at LSU, I might have a different result, especially if LSU only had like one loss and they were still in the playoff hunt. But because they have two losses, Alabama's a lot to play for. Saban's going to have them ready for this game. And Bama's defense, just like Washington's, is going to be key. They have to slow down Jayden Daniels and not allow LSU to get into the 30s in points. If they do, it'll be hard for Bama to win. I'll go with Alabama to win 31-27. It's going to be a close game. Alabama cannot allow LSU to get into the 30s. But I think the Crimson Tide's defense will do just enough to slow down Jayden Daniels, and I think Alabama will be able to score enough on an LSU defense has struggled, and that night home crowd will be able to help the Crimson Tide to victory.
Tommy Rees versus Brian Kelly.
That's a good point. Did not even mention that. That's a really good point.
Here we go. I don't know, man.
You actually thinking about picking BK, your former coach, Brian Kelly?
Alabama has not impressed me this year, like really at all. That's the thing.
You feel like Alabama's going to lose their playoff chance. It's going to be all over right here.
I want Bama to win, but I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
I get it. That's why I have it being really close. I don't think Alabama's going to win by a lot.
They said it's a toss-up because it's a toss-up. It's a -3, so they're giving it to Bama's. They're giving it to Bryant-Denny. All right, I'll pick Alabama.
You going with the Crimson Tide, Tommy Rees over Brian Kelly.
34-31.
I think it's going to be a really good game. And, I mean, Alabama has not been as good this season they've been in the past, but they have not collapsed, like I said, to the level Clemson has. I just think that they're still a little bit better. And their road is not done. They still have at Kentucky and at Auburn. So even if they win this game, it's not like they're automatically back in the playoff discussion for sure. And even if they make the SEC championship game, they have to beat Georgia. It's going to be hard. But Alabama, if they want to stay in the hunt, you got to beat LSU. I just think that they'll get it done.
I don't want to know. Miami and NC State.
Ooh. That's a hard game to pick because Miami's been inconsistent, like they always are. They're better than they've been, you know, when they were really bad, like the poor Manny Diaz years and some of their other years. But, man, NC State just beat Clemson. It's in Carter-Finley. It's at night. I'm letting you pick first.
NC State's offense is so bad.
It is. It's really bad. I agree with that. They can't score a lot of points. They scored enough to beat Clemson.
How did Clemson lose it? I don't know, man.
I don't know. I think Clemson beat NC State by, I think, 14.
I feel like Miami plays better away from home than at home. I'll go Miami. I don't know. It's weird. They're weird like that. I'll go Miami 24-21. That'll be close.
I just don't trust either team. Like you said, NC State's not a good offensive team, and Miami just in general doesn't play well consistently enough. I guess I'll go with you, pick Miami to win 28-21, I guess, because they're better road team. They're favored. I just don't trust them, though. They're not a very good team all the time. But NC State, the poor offense, maybe Miami can get it done. I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
Ooh. Washington State, if they lose to Stanford, it's over. Like, the season's done. And look at Cam Ward's stats still. 2,500 yards, 16 touchdowns to 3 picks. Those are good stats, but you see, though, he's not getting help, though. Look at the running game. Stanford's running back with 215 yards is the leading rusher for both teams. That's why Washington State, I think that right there is a big reason why Washington State's falling apart, because teams have figured out that if you pressure Ward, they don't have much else.
Can Stanford do it, though?
They don't have much else, to go off. They don't have a big run game. And their defense has had cracks. They've shown a lot of cracks lately.
Mm-hmm.
They've been giving up a lot. Like, they gave up 44 to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And to Jackson's point, Cam Ward's pretty good, but he can't do everything by himself. It's almost like, again, a Caleb Williams, Drake May kind of deal. He's on a team with a defense that's not that great, and he's not getting a lot of run help, even though Carolina has a running game, but still defense. Washington State, they've been playing poor. Defense, like I said, has been bad. No run game. But I think Cam Ward will be enough. And Stanford, like you said, I don't know if they'll be able to pressure him enough. I'll go with Washington State to win 35-31. But I think it's going to be close because I don't like Washington State's defense right now. But I think they will win. But they have to win if they want to make a bowl.
Yeah. I'll pick Stanford. Screw it. I'll pick Stanford 34-31.
Man, you're picking the trees. I mean, I almost did. I really did. That's why I said 35-31. I was this close to picking Stanford, but I didn't think you were going to do it. I didn't know you were going to go with the trees.
I think Jackson, this is looking true, man. I think Maryland's better than this. I know you used to put Maryland in this conversation too, but Wazoo really maybe the Syracuse.
Yeah, but no one was saying this a few weeks ago when they beat Oregon State and they were ranked 13th. Like, how did they collapse like this? I understand I've already answered the question because they don't have any run game and teams have figured them out, but still, like, the defense was playing better earlier in the season. What happened to the defense? It doesn't make any sense why they've collapsed the way they have, but this is like a last stand. They got to win.
This is Oregon State's last stand, too.
Yeah, I know I picked Oregon State. They let me down at Arizona, but I think Arizona's better than Colorado. That's pretty official at this point. Colorado, no defense. Shedeur Sanders, kind of like Cam Ward, has no help. I mean, because look at his stats. They're even better than Cam Ward's. 22 touchdowns, 3 picks, 2,600 yards in 8 games. Shedeur Sanders, like I said, if you did not have Shedeur Sanders, Colorado could be 1-7 or 0-8. That's how bad they beat.
Like, imagine if Shedeur Sanders was on Alabama.
Yeah, or what if you put Caleb Williams on Alabama? It'd be insane. Or Georgia. Caleb Williams would easily win the Heisman again, and they won it all probably. Yeah. But Colorado just is not helping Sanders. He's doing everything. I feel really bad for him. I mean, he's trying hard. I mean, it's no disrespect to him when I talk about Colorado struggling. He's doing everything. He's been great. But Oregon State, they've got, more talent, more depth. They've struggled a little bit in a couple games, but Arizona's better than Colorado. I think Oregon State will be able to take advantage of that and win 31-21.
Yeah, I'll go 45-38.
Could be a high-scoring game, but UCLA only gave up 16 to Colorado. But we'll see.
Oregon State's defense is pretty bad, though.
They only gave up 27 to Arizona. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if you stop Sanders, though, then you got the team. But you could be right. It could be a higher-scoring game. I think Oregon State will win.
Fresno should beat Boise in Fresno.
If it was in Boise, I'd pick them.
Yeah.
And I still don't know about Mikey Keene's availability. Did Mikey Keene play in the last game?
All right, we'll look it up. I don't know if he played against UNLV.
Because that's the key. I think that Mikey Keene
he did.
Backup. He did play?
Yeah.
All right, so Mikey Keene's back. That's huge. Genty on the ground is great for Boise, but Boise's quarterback play has been suspect. But they've got a good rushing attack with Halani's back on the ground and Genty. McAllister's a good receiver. Boise's got weapons still. They're still a good team. That's why Fresno's only favored by 3. But I think with the return of Mikey Keene and the fact that it's at home, if it was at the Blue Field, I'd pick Boise, but I'll go with Fresno State to beat Boise State 35-31. I think this would be a good game, really good game, but I'll go with Fresno State.
Yeah, I'll go 41-27 Fresno. I think Boise, that Blue Field, without the Blue Field, would be tough. Here we go. Can Arizona do it again?
Now, this is like the Oregon State-Arizona game. And this should be on ESPN, really. I know ESPN Colorado because of Deion Sanders is going to get the ratings. I get that. But this game could be better, I think. It could be really, really good. I picked against Arizona. I did against Oregon State. But UCLA, they've got a good D-line, and they could affect Fafita. They do have a really good defensive line. Chris is always talking about their defensive line. It is good. It's really good. And Dante Moore, his stats have not gone up.
Garbers is
He's out
starting
right now. So he's
They-
out right now.
They put Garbers back in, yeah.
That's what I thought. So he's out. Garbers is in. I feel like Garbers is turnover prone. Every game I've ever seen, he always has a pick or two. And Dante Moore was turnover prone as well. So I think Arizona's going to get it done again. I'm going to back the Desert this time and back Fafita. I'll go with Arizona to achieve bowl eligibility and win 35-28. I'm changing tune this time. I'm going to go with Arizona.
This is tough. Well, the
D-line for UCLA almost made me choose the other way, though, because Fafita, if he gets pressured, it could be interesting. But I think they'll win, Arizona.
The power of the Fafita will propel the Wildcats to victory. I'll go 38-28, Arizona.
And it will be interesting, though. I'm telling you, the October effect, that does scare me a bit when picking Arizona. Will Fafita regress, kind of like Khalil Tate did in November? It could happen, but we'll see. I do think that Fafita has shown he's been playing well. Like you mentioned, Jedd Fisch is doing a good job as coach. Maybe that will not be the case this time around, and Arizona will actually be good in November, and they'll get the win.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for everyone for coming in. I did get to 100 subscribers, so I'm very happy about that. Thank you, everyone.
It's awesome, man.
And yeah, be sure to come back next week. We're going to be doing it on Jeffrey's channel next week. Thanks, Jason and Jackson, for staying till the end. And yeah, I'll see you guys around.
Thanks for being here, everybody. A lot of fun.